Jay, that's strangely close to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
The crowd up. And so are this defense, and Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs.
David Montgomery on the Lions, former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's the flag. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. Snap. Hold. Kick.
Denver wins! Denver wins! Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened? Oh shit.
Oh, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the only football podcast tonight. Week 8 recap. We're going to be talking about all the games that happened Sunday, Thursday. We're going to be talking about all the trades that happened earlier today and earlier this week and last week. And of course, we're going to end it off with the Chives with Kyle. Oh, let's get it. America is football. Football
America
is
is football.
America.
Football is America. And if you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass.
For the moment in time, I'm giving 10.
Oh my god.
You loved it.
30 to 27.
No!
Chiefs win. Chiefs
No!
win 30 to 20. Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Only Football Podcast. I'm Kyle, and that's Rick.
I'm Rick, that's Kyle.
Wow. Week 8 in the books, halfway through the season. I am really enjoying this year, and I can't wait to get into it. I got to be honest, Rick. I didn't want to tell you this. I feel like I wrote a hit piece on Caleb Williams. Now,
Oh, no.
I did not mean to. So I just want to say, going into this,
Kyle hates
that-
Caleb Williams. Yeah.
it's not personal. It's not personal. Like Deion
my
Sanders
quarterback.
says, it's personal. It's
My
personal.
quarterback.
This
That's
is
my
not.
quarterback.
We have to talk about it. I mean, we're halfway through the season.
Mhm.
There's rookie quarterbacks to evaluate. It's going to be really fun. It's exciting. I think you can make strong cases for a lot of different things right now, but let's just start off with the first game that happened on week 8, which was a correct prediction on your part.
Mhm.
The Rams at home beating the Vikings.
Yeah.
I think I recall, yes, I said the Vikings would win. No, I didn't know Puka Nacua was going to play in this game. And I also said the Vikings are 6-0. I could see this being a team by week 10 that they're like 6 or 7-3, or week 12 and they're 6-4.
Yeah.
I felt like they were going to start losing eventually. Now they have back-to-back losses. Now the Rams are no slouch of an opponent, but they really, I mean, the Vikings, if they had the team that people thought they had, they were supposed to win this game. The offensive line, not ideal for the Minnesota Vikings and all the blitzing that they do. They had rookies on the offensive line. They had first-time players. They had no Tyler Higbee, but guess what? Sean McVay just found a way to script Puka Nacua open. And make no mistake about it, Cooper Kupp, he's the number 2 wide receiver on the Rams. That has officially happened. And the Rams, when they have Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, and Cooper Kupp on the field, they are very good, and they feel like they can beat anybody. Now, I feel like Matthew Stafford at this part of his career, it's very interesting because he goes into the season and Anthony Richardson has better odds to win MVP than Matthew Stafford. which
What?
is just absolutely bonkers. And then the Rams, I mean, they lose everything. They lose offensive linemen. They lose both their receivers. They lose Tyler Higbee. They start losing, and everybody's just like, Matthew Stafford, he just doesn't have it in him. He's old. He doesn't have that ability off script to roll out of the pocket, extend plays. Dude, there was a play in this game where Matthew Stafford threw a touchdown pass. He avoided a blitz. He like ducked all the way down and like spun and then threw a touchdown pass to Cooper Kupp. And it was like, Matthew Stafford still has a lot of good ball left in him. Now, for the Vikings, I think that this was a game where they came out and they played a good game, but the Rams just showed what they're capable of when they have all their pieces. And that's why at this point in the season, the Rams are my favorite to win the NFC West. Of course, they have to stay healthy, but with all these weapons on, Matthew Stafford is still playing football at one of the highest levels when it comes to quarterback. He's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now, and he wants to win one more Super Bowl. I thought it was an impressive win. The Rams kind of get their weapons back. If they would have lost, it would have been very discouraging that you get all your pieces back and the losing continues. This was a big win for a Rams team that's trying to take advantage of an NFC West that's kind of weak right now.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that we had talked about, I think, yesterday, was this NFC West looks kind of up for grabs. And I had made the comparison to the NFC South. Like, it's anyone's division. And you said, but I wouldn't want to play any of these teams in contrast to the NFC South. Like, I'll play those teams, especially last year when all 4 of those teams were just like, they're all beatable. Whereas the 49ers, the Seahawks, the Cardinals, and now the Rams, especially after that win on Thursday night, look very, very tough to go either into their house or they come to your house and play them, because they do have a lot of talent. And you mentioned that having Puka Nacua back, having Cooper Kupp back definitely helped quite a bit. Nacua on his game back, as well as Kupp. Nacua had 7 receptions, 106 yards. Cooper Kupp had 5 for 51. Demarcus Robinson, Cooper Kupp had the touchdown. Demarcus Robinson, 2 receptions, 35 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then Kyren Williams also had that touchdown. So, like you said, when they have their weapons, man, like Matthew Stafford is playing like a top 5 quarterback, like you said. Like, I don't know if I'd put him there right now. It's kind of difficult to look across the spectrum of quarterbacks and be like, Matthew Stafford is top 5. You got other guys that look really, really good right now. But with those 2 guys, absolutely Stafford is up there. And I think Lil Lee, who's in the chat, by the way, what's up, Lil Lee? He had put up a tweet of that video of me, making the prediction that the Rams are going to beat the Vikings. I wanted to go with the Vikings. I really did. But the whole Lions thing, that trend is continuing, and it's going to continue next week because the Titans are already dog shit. And after they play the Lions, they're going to be even more dog shit unless they have a bye next week. I don't even know. But regardless, I saw that trend and I was like, I got to go with the Rams. Now, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, I had heard things about, hey, Cooper Kupp's coming back. I don't know about Puka Nacua. I had heard some things about Puka coming back. He came back and he showed out. And this Rams team looked good. Their defense, again, not great. But also you're going up against, Sam Darnold, Aaron Jones, Justin Jefferson. It's tough to go up against these guys, but they held them to 276 yards of total offense, not to mention only 64 rushing yards. And especially against Aaron Jones, that is great. The Rams come away with this win and they deserve it. Like you said, they are now looking a little bit better than they were prior to week 8. So this, you said it's their favorite. This team is your favorite for the NFC West. I don't know about that for me, but they looked really, really good with all their weapons back.
Yeah, totally agree with all that, and we'll see if they can, build some steam here. I mean, this is very veteran quarterback-ish, where it doesn't really matter what happens. You just kind of hang in there, and then once November starts, you get hot. They did the
Yeah.
same thing last year. They were not a team that people took serious, and then November came around, and then December, and then all of a sudden it was like nobody wanted to play the Rams once they got to the postseason.
Yeah.
And they, right there at the very end of it, lose to the Lions, who were up by like 21 points against the 49ers in the NFC Championship, which tells me, and we don't play that game. Well, if you beat them, then they could be. But I do feel like what the Lions showed, or the Rams showed against the Lions, was that they can go to a Super Bowl. Like, they are a couple big plays away from being like the Bengals in 2020, where you're like, damn, the Rams are there? How did they get there? So we'll keep an eye on that, but that's definitely exciting for Rams fans. Speaking of the Lions, let's talk about them.
Yeah.
Those Lions, man, very, very interesting game, to say the least. You look at this Lions game, and of course, a lopsided victory. I mean, it 52-14.
Yep.
Bad loss for Tennessee. And the beginning of this game was kind of promising for Tennessee. They went with Mason Rudolph, who definitely has the most punchable face in the NFL. I swear, every time I see that guy, I just want to fucking... Oh. I don't know why. I don't feel that way about anyone else.
Yeah.
His face. Okay.
His face.
So...
His fucking face.
I know. It's like, God, it's like New York tears. So I thought Mason Rudolph played a good game in the first quarter. In the first quarter, he looked really good. He had Calvin Ridley involved. He was throwing touchdown passes. I think he ran for one. He threw for one. It was 14-14, I believe. Like, they were going back and forth, and Tennessee was taking leads, and it was like, is Mason Rudolph good? This is the initial spark that a new quarterback gives their team. This is to be expected. The more we do this, the more obvious it becomes to me, seeing the trends, because I'm paying more attention to the details like that. Now, the Lions eventually pull away. They had 2 punt returns in this game. There's some really weird stats. So let me first say the Lions, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe they had 40-something points, and Jared Goff had 44 passing yards.
61 passing yards was all that Jared Goff had 85
by the
passing
end of the
yards. Yeah, by the end of the game.
So, I mean,
12 for 15.
12 completed passes. I mean, if you would have just only showed me the box score, I would have been like, the Titans won this game.
Yeah.
There's no
Upset
way.
Of the week. Upset of the week.
And then if you were like, no, the Lions win, you're like, ooh, they do? That must be an ugly game. What, 12-15? What are we talking? 52. It's like, what?
14. They won by 38 points, and you're like, I'm sorry, they won by 5 scores? You're like, yep, they did.
Dude, it's so strange. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs becomes the 4th player in NFL history to average 5 yards per carry on a minimum 10 attempts in 6 straight games. I mean, that's history. You think of all the great running backs that have been in the league. And this reminds me of earlier in the year when the Lions were getting cute offensively, and then Dan Campbell lost, and I believe that was Tampa. And then he was like, we're going back to what we do best. And now they're doing it arguably better than anybody ever has with these type of record-breaking numbers. So it makes sense that they went back to it. He's averaged 11.5 yards on 11 carries Sunday, and then he had a 70-yard touchdown, which, of course, inflates the number. The wide receiver, Khalif Raymond, averaged 38 yards per return on his 5 punt returns, which is the highest average by a returner with at least 5 punt returns in a single game since the 1970 merger of the AFL and the NFL. Raymond's 190 return yards was 17 of the NFL's single game record, 17 yards off of the single game record, which was set by Leroy Irvin, who had 207 against the Atlanta Falcons in 81. The Lions' 52 points nearly reached a franchise record for points in a game. However, the single game record remains 55, which was set in 1997 against the Bears, unfortunately. Sorry,
Yeah,
Rick.
I did see that. Yeah.
For as good as the Lions' offense was Sunday, their punter also made history. Jack Fox becomes the only player in NFL history to average at least 60 gross yards per punt and
Wow.
55 net yards per punt in a single game with at least 5 punt attempts. His
God damn.
61 gross average in Sunday's game is the 4th highest in a single game in history of the NFL.
Wow.
And his 56.2 net average ranked 2nd. Lastly, I got a couple more, but these are all worth mentioning. The Lions netted just 61 passing yards. We talked about that one. That's freaking weird. Jared Goff set an NFL record for highest completion percentage over a 5-game span. Remember, we were streaming the game where he didn't throw an incomplete pass. I think he was 20 for 20 or something like that.
Goff?
Yeah, Jared Goff.
No, Goff was like 18 for 18 because he would have had the record had he gone 20 or over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because I remember that one specifically because it was like Jared Goff was 100% on all his passes. He did not miss, but because he didn't do the over 20 completions or attempts, it didn't count as like in the history record books.
Still, I mean, now
It's
he
impressive.
does have a record, and it was because of that game. And, in games like this, where his record is the highest completion percentage over this 5-game span with 83% of his balls being completed, 146.5 passer rating during that frame, ranks first. We're talking NFL history. Since 1941, only 2 other teams have produced a 90-yard punt return and a 70-yard kickoff return in the same game. The Lions did so with a 90-yard punt return by Khalif Raymond and a 72-yard kickoff return by Khalil Dorsey. And then lastly, Goff became the first player in NFL history to throw 2 or more touchdowns, complete at least 72% of his passes, and post a passer rating of 110 or more in 5 straight games, which is like, okay, yeah, you're definitely in the MVP conversation. Now, just talking about the Lions in general here, we know that the Titans, they're not the best team right now. They don't have Will Levis. I don't know if that makes a difference. What we do know is that the Titans are in a tanking mode. They got DeAndre Hopkins shipped to Kansas City, and overall, they're starting to look like the beatable team. The only thing they have is their passing defense, and it's still ranked first. That is all they have over there right now. For the Lions, though, it's not just about how you beat bad teams. It's the way you do it, right? Or you know what I mean? Like it is the Titans, but the Lions beat them in a way that was like toying with them. Like we don't even need to turn it up to 10. We can turn it up to 7 and we can still embarrass you. And that is really surprising to me, at least after Aiden Hutchinson got hurt. I expected the Lions to be in more competitive games. And since the injury, the Lions arguably have been playing better, not making the argument that they're a better team without him. That's stupid. I'm just saying that the Lions have been able to adapt to a major injury in a way that I think puts them back in the Super Bowl conversation when people took them down a notch and said, okay, maybe NFC Championship game without Hutch. Now I think they can still get it done. They're proving that they can still get it done. I like the Lions. That's why they're my number 1 team in the NFL in the last 2 or 3 weeks in a row on my top 5.
That's Kyle's number 1 team. So they're either going to lose in the NFC Championship or in the Super Bowl. And that's just kind of how it's gone for the last couple of years for Kyle. Love Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, Super Bowl loss. Brock Purdy, 49ers, Super Bowl loss. And then the Lions last year, NFC Championship game loss.
I don't know. Something's different this year.
I agree, man. They're killing teams. They are winning at a ridiculous clip. The amount of points they're scoring, the fact that they lose their key defensive player, and again, defensive player of the year, more than likely was going to win that award, and they're still like not missing a beat. Now, again, you said it yourself. It's not that you beat the shit out of bad teams, but it's how you do that, right? And this time it was their special teams, and it was Jahmyr Gibbs, and it was running the ball, and it wasn't Jared Goff, who is up there in terms of probable MVP of the league right now, right? Playing that way. So they're able to do it in different ways, different players, because they got players across the board. And really, if you are a fan of a team, that's exactly how you want to win any game, any given Sunday versus anyone, right? Because if they go up against the Ravens, right, and they have a game like this where they have a punt return touchdown, and Jared Goff has 60 yards, 80 yards passing, and Jahmyr Gibbs has a rushing touchdown, right? Like, regardless, you scored 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, whatever it is, and you're able to win that way without Jared Goff going off. Fuck it, man. It's Jahmyr Gibbs, and it's the special teams. Like, as you know, when the Bears had Hester and they had that amazing defense, and then we had Rex Grossman as quarterback, I wasn't mad about the wins we had when we were scoring touchdowns on punts and kickoffs and defense takeaways and all that. Like, I was happy about it because we were able to win. Now, did we lose the Super Bowl? Yeah, it sucks, but the Detroit Lions at least have a great quarterback, have great playmakers on the offensive side, and again, get it done in different ways. Whatever way gets the win. That's what matters.
They do have a great offense too.
They have a great offense, absolutely. And so on the Titans side, Mason Rudolph looked decent to start off, but that was it. That was kind of it. He had a rushing touchdown, which was cool. And funny stat, the Titans have now thrown an interception in each game this year. So 8 games in a row they have thrown an interception, and
really,
that's what's killing them, man. That's the turnovers. You turn the ball over 4 times, I think it was, that they had. If I'm not mistaken, it was, 2 interceptions by Rudolph, and I'm assuming a couple fumbles as well. It's just the Titans, again, on paper, looked good. They looked really good. Obviously, they got rid of DeAndre Hopkins just this past week. He went to the Chiefs, but on paper, they look good before the season. And you and I were talking about that. It's just the execution now. Will Levis ain't the guy. He's not. It was from the Bears game up until they benched him. It was always something with him. So the secondary has zero problem there. You said it yourself. Like, they still have the one of the best secondaries in the NFL. It's just now, how can we make the defense that much better? But more importantly, how can we make the offense a regular, normal, decent unit? Because maybe that might be a recipe to win some games. They're not going to get it done this year. The Tennessee Titans have kind of an uphill battle, especially with CJ Stroud in the division and the Texans there. But I mean, the Lions 2 years ago had a losing record with Dan Campbell, and now they are NFC juggernauts. So it can be done in a 3-year turnaround. So
yeah,
Titans have some hope.
I had a whole post about that, about Colorado, the Buffaloes, and how their turnaround is going to be about 3 years, just like Detroit. Now, the Browns are back. I wanted to start off by saying the Browns are actually back. This is not a fluke. Now,
it's not a fluke.
I had a video. I forgot to send it to myself. It was my flashback moment, like I did last week. And it was my bet of the week. Take the Browns with the points. I didn't predict them to win, but I said I wouldn't be surprised if they win this outright, where it was my exact words, because history tells us that for whatever reason, the Ravens don't play good in Cleveland. They just don't. I mean, Joe Burrow's never won in Cleveland. Cleveland is a tough place to play at home when it comes to AFC North opponents. Everyone else is good. And Jameis Winston, right? We said he's going to throw probably 3 touchdowns, 300 yards,
Mm-hmm.
and 2 interceptions. Right? And he did 2 of those 3, and the one thing he
Yep.
left out was the 2 interceptions.
Yep.
Jameis Winston went out there, and he looked like an immediate upgrade. And it makes you
Mhm.
wonder, right? When you see the success Joe Flacco had last year
Mm-hmm.
under Kevin O'Connell, and this year you got Ken Dorsey. It's his first game calling the offensive end of the football, and Jameis Winston's first game as the quarterback. How's it going to go? And it went amazing. It went amazing. Now, wasn't Ken Dorsey the Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator last year?
He was, and then they
He
got
got-
rid of him, right?
I think he got fired after the Broncos beat the Bills
Yeah.
on Monday night.
Yeah.
So this was his first game calling, and it was the Browns'
Mhm.
first home win of the season, and it's their first divisional win this year. So
Yeah.
this was obviously, if there's any hope, this is a must-win game. But we talked about, what if the Browns are still good, but Deshaun Watson's just really that bad? Like, what
Yeah.
if he is so bad that
Yeah.
we are looking at this team like there's no talent? And then you see the moves they make, which tells you the mindset of the front office. They send Amari Cooper to Buffalo, and it's like
Mhm.
they're embracing the tank. I mean, we talked about it when they didn't name Jameis Winston the starting quarterback. We were like, are they like tanking and making it that obvious?
Mhm.
And now Jameis Winston comes in and they get this win. He throws for over 300 yards. They knock off the number 1 team in your top 5, the Ravens, and
Yep.
this is a really impressive win. And now the question is, was this just a weird divisional win, or is this a new Browns team that can use this to catapult themselves into what Joe Flacco did? Because last year, Joe Flacco was the one that really came in and took the Browns to the next level. Is Jameis Winston the guy to do it this year? It sure looks like after this game he is, but it's hard to say because these AFC North games tend to be like this, and it could be nothing more than just that.
Yeah, the Browns, they're such a loser organization right now ever since they got rid of Baker. Can Jameis Winston do what Joe Flacco did last year, right? I mean, this is the second year in a row that Deshaun Watson gets injured, and it's the third year of his ridiculous deal. Now, can Jameis do it? I really don't know, man. I want to believe in Jameis, but there's been so much tape on Jameis that just shows me that's not going to be the case. But he's fun. He's a guy with a cannon. He can get it downfield, and he can take an offense and hype you up. I mean, you saw what he did with the Saints. You saw what he did with the Bucks when he was there. Like he's a dynamic guy. He's a guy who can get the offense going, right? Like a bit of a spark plug, really, right? I don't know if he's got what Flacco had last year. For the Ravens to come in here and into Cleveland and lose the way they did, and again to Jameis Winston, to be honest, it's not a slight to Jameis. It's just Lamar Jackson is clearly the better quarterback. The Ravens are clearly the better team on offense, and yet somehow, like you said, it's difficult to win in Cleveland. If Joe Burrow hasn't won there, Lamar Jackson's going to have a hard time. When Pittsburgh goes to Cleveland, they're going to have a difficult time, right? Unless they already have. I can't remember exactly if they've had a division matchup or not. It's a difficult place to play. Now, makes it even more difficult when you have a competent quarterback instead of Deshaun Watson. I really don't know what the hell's going on with Deshaun Watson, man. There's something that's not clicking there because he's not able to do the things that Flacco did last season, and he's not able to do the things that Jameis Winston did yesterday or Sunday with them this year. There is something wrong with Deshaun Watson. You know, it's unfortunate that the Browns pretty much mortgage their future on this guy, right? Because now you are in tank mode, and you're hoping that in the draft, I'm not sure what the fuck kind of move they're going to make, whether it's a quarterback, whether it's a wide receiver, whether it's a defensive, like, I don't know what they're going to do. And
unless
Bills,
Jameis Winston plays really well, and
but
then
they'll
they're
just get
like,
rid of him.
this
They'll
could be
just
their Baker Mayfield, like what Baker was to Tampa.
I thought you were making a joke.
Oh no, like what Baker was to Tampa. Jameis, like this might be there. You're seeing this with quarterbacks, especially ones that were really good, but they just made too many mistakes.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
They hit 30, 31, and all of a sudden they're calmed down a little bit, but they can have this second wind of their career like Geno Smith had. Maybe
the Tannehill effect.
The Tannehill effect, yeah. That's the first guy that comes to mind when you think about these. I mean, there's no question. He's a former number 1 overall pick. He's thrown for 30 touchdowns. I mean, he threw 30 picks, but what if he gets rid of the picks? I mean, this could
Flacco
be
did
his
that.
chance to
Flacco
be the
did that.
term.
Yeah, 100%. And Flacco did that last year. I mean, it seemed like Flacco was throwing for so many yards. He was going deep, but he still threw quite a bit of interceptions. I mean, I think he threw 2 against the Bears and still came out with a win in that one.
Yeah.
He was doing that. And Kraft saying Flacco threw a lot of picks last year too. 100%. Ryan Fitzpatrick is definitely retired, Lily. He's on Thursday Night Football right now. So yeah. But I don't know, man. I like the Browns just have a Deshaun Watson problem. You get Jameis Winston who comes in and makes it look good. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, stop. Just stop with that experiment. Stop bringing in these Tyler Huntleys, these Dorian Thompson-Robinsons, these guys who are just not going to do anything when you have a Jameis Winston and a Joe Flacco. Like, you have these guys who could come in and make somewhat of a difference. And, I mean, Deshaun Watson just cut it out. Like, I get you got to pay the guy, but to be honest, I'd rather, if I'm the Browns at this point, knowing that I've brought in 2 10-year vets and they looked better with the offense, and Nick Chubb definitely helps, by the way, but I've brought in 2 10-year vet quarterbacks and they made the offense look better than anything Deshaun Watson has done in however many games he's played because of his injuries. You clearly have a problem with Deshaun Watson. Pay the dude and get rid of him. Cut him. Just cut him. Like, if you're going to be tanking, or if you're going to be looking like you're tanking, get a quarterback in the draft. You know, try something different. Make Jameis your starter, like you said, like a Baker Mayfield type of thing, and bring in a quarterback to develop while that's happening, and acquire pieces, right? You get rid of Amari Cooper, but it's because you had to. You have to start getting draft capital in order to do this. You're not the Rams. You can't just fucking bring in anybody and expect a Super Bowl that same year. It's just the Cleveland Browns shot themselves in the foot. And to be fair, Deshaun Watson obviously was going through the legal troubles that he was going through, but we did not expect the astronomical drop-off that is Deshaun Watson right now on the Browns. Nobody expected that. We thought Deshaun Watson was going to look like Texans Deshaun Watson. And unfortunately, that's not the case, right? So bring in Jameis, bring in another veteran quarterback if you don't want Jameis. Bring in somebody who can at least make your team look like an NFL team, and then draft a fucking guy. Like, just do that and pay Deshaun Watson his money to not play football for you, because I don't know if anybody else will pay Watson to play for their team next year. Like unfortunately, like the Broncos, right, with Russ, like they took him to Steelers, and the Broncos just have to take that dead cap hit. But even if they do, who cares? You got rid of that guy. You have a fucking coach, 2-time coach of the year. You have a defense last year who was like number 1. Like, how are you going to continue to just trot out Deshaun Watson and whatever fucking veteran quarterback or DTR that you want to? It's like, Browns, get it together, man. Get it together. And then I know I went on a rant there with the Browns. It's just kind of infuriating, to be honest. And that's coming from a Bears fan. So the Ravens, you and I picked them. We picked them to destroy the Browns, and unfortunately that's not the case. Lamar Jackson,
to destroy. I took the Browns with the points.
Okay, so you took them to beat them, the Browns, with the points.
They were I think they were 6.5-point underdogs. And I said, this is going to be a close game.
Yeah, 7.5. At least that's the line I'm seeing now, but that's probably closer to game time. It switched
Yeah.
a little bit either way. But the Ravens, I mean, they had decent games. Lamar Jackson, 2 touchdown passes, almost 300 yards. Derrick Henry had 11 carries for 73 yards and a touchdown. Like, they were actually playing well. It's just the Browns played a lot better. And that's kind of it at the end of the day. They were actually able to take a win against the Ravens, and really the AFC North and any division opponent is going to be tough to play. Like, I feel like we keep saying this, but week in, week out, whenever there's a division and it's like one team is clearly better, it's like, no, they lose to them, or they have a tough time getting in the end zone, or tough time scoring. It's like division opponents know each other and they play each other twice a year and they watch tape and they know what they're doing to each other. So while I'm surprised the Ravens lost with the way their offense has been this year, I can't say I'm just like shocked. You know what I mean? Because it's the division opponent and it's the Browns.
Yeah, it definitely happens. And the day before the game, the Browns they lost a person, died. Somebody that was really, really close to the organization, Jim Donovan.
Oh, wow.
He lived out his childhood dream. I read into this guy. It was really cool. His dream was calling sports, and he was the voice of the Browns. He
Wow.
he
Who?
passed away. Jim Donovan.
Jim Donovan. Okay, I got to look him up.
Yeah, he passed away the day before the game, and after the game, Kevin Stefanski held the game ball in the air, and he said, "I told you guys I wanted nothing more than to give this ball to the Donovan family," which they were able to do. They were playing that game with purpose. Just a little information there on after. But let's talk about the AFC South for a second.
Real quick. Kyle, who did the Ravens just acquire?
Wait, did we talk about it yet?
Right before we went live. They got Deontay Johnson on their squad next to Zay Flowers, next to Mark Andrews, with King Henry. This offense is explosive, and I feel like Deontay Johnson is going to bring another little bit to that. And him and Zay Flowers 1 and 2, that's going to be a good 1 and 2 wide receiving core right there.
Yeah, Baltimore is 5th right now in passing yards per game, but they're still looking for more. So, I mean, it's obvious that it's Super Bowl or bust for Baltimore right now, and all the moves they're making are signifying, hey, could we get one more piece, just one more guy?
Yep.
So yeah, crazy move, because Deontay Johnson was actually having a pretty stellar season with Carolina, which says a lot about Deontay Johnson, right? So I think Zay Flowers is as great as he is. I've always viewed him as a number 2. And I think Deontay Johnson is definitely a number 1. And then you can't forget about Rashad Bateman, who is going to be a solid 3. So yeah, things are looking up for the Ravens. I mean, that's one way to just get the loss out of your mouth, is make a move like that. Everyone's stoked.
Oh yeah.
Now going to the AFC South, I picked Jacksonville as an upset of the week after thoughtful consideration. Jacksonville scores the touchdown to tie the game with, I think there was like a minute and some change left in the game.
Yep.
And then Malik Willis was a 51-yard pass to Jaden Reed. And basically it was the second week in a row that Brandon McManus kicked the game-winning field goal. The Packers, they come into this game one of the hottest teams in the NFL, and they remain one of the hottest teams in the NFL. And when you get these type of games on the road where you got a team playing their ass off at home, and you still find a way to squeak it out, even with your quarterback going down, the Packers just have that factor this year where they are winning football games however they need to win football games, whether it's the defense or it's the offense or it's just Josh Jacobs having a big game or it's Love dishing it out. Now, Love got hurt. Like I said, the MRI is negative. So he is questionable to play against the Lions. I don't know if they'll do that or not. We'll see what happens. But good news that he wasn't seriously hurt after having that groin injury. So Green Bay continues to be good. Jacksonville, unfortunately, they lose this game, but it doesn't feel like the type of loss where you fire your head coach. It just didn't. It felt like the team played neck and neck with one of the better teams in the NFL, and Brian Thomas was out of the game. Like by the end of the game, I mean, they had nobody. Like Trevor Lawrence went on 2 80-yard touchdown drives pretty much, and he had to do it. He had no choice. There was no time left, and he had to do it without his wide receivers on the field. Yeah. He didn't have Gabe Davis or Brian Thomas Jr., and it was basically the Evan Ingram show, and he still pulled it off. The defense, unfortunately, couldn't close the deal. Green Bay continues to win their games.
Crafty Packers would be undefeated if they didn't insist on starting their inferior quarterback. It sucks because Jordan Love, it's a groin injury now, and LaFleur was quoted as saying that he has a high level of concern for the latest injury. So it's probably going to be Malik Willis for at least the near future for Packers and for Packers fans. The good thing is Malik Willis so far 2-0 in starts. He came into this game, was able to make the right moves in terms of passing and get into range, right? Because that was what it was. Another field goal, another last second field goal. As a Bears fan, I could bash the Packers right now and talk about the last 2 wins being decided by field goals, but what did we say earlier? If you're going to beat your opponent, what matters? It doesn't matter how you beat them. It matters that you beat them. And the Packers luckily have a very, very good secondary and really a very good defense, especially the guys up front getting pressure. And I don't know if they were able to do too much to Trevor Lawrence because he had a really good day, 308 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have an interception, so credit to that secondary for that.
Guess who? Xavier McKinney.
Yeah, there you go. And credit to them that they're able to do that because you got to beat your opponent. That's all that matters is taking wins, and they're 6-2 now. Now, if this NFC North wasn't fucking stacked, they'd probably be leading the division if the Detroit Lions weren't so fucking good. But fortunately, they're in second place now with the Vikings sliding into third place, and the Bears unfortunately in fourth. But anyway, so they're able to win these games, and they've got guys on both sides of the ball that could make the difference at any point in time. As a Bears fans, I would have thought you'd be envious of teams that can win with field goals. Crafty just dishing it out today. On the Jack side, you're right. This isn't the game where you got spanked by the Bears. This isn't the game where Doug Peterson looks like an idiot in the fourth quarter because of decision making or coaching decisions. Trevor Lawrence played well. You had some injuries on one side of the ball, and guess what? They won on a last-second field goal. Like, what more can you ask for from your coach and from your team, right? Like, they were able to do more than enough, at least to get it to that point where the Packers did have to get down the field, try to get into field goal range, and they were able to do that. So it was a good effort by the Jaguars. The Jaguars are just not going anywhere this year. They're 2-6 unless they have a complete 180 turnaround on the offensive side and especially on the defensive side for letting up so many points. I don't think the Jaguars are going anywhere. Trevor Lawrence continues to be like a turnover machine. I think since he's been drafted, he has the most turnovers by a wide margin, whether that's fumbles, picks, whatever it is. It's just Trevor Lawrence's Achilles heel when his career goes down in history is the amount of turnovers he has. And unfortunately, it happened again this week against the Packers.
Yeah, and we're going to definitely talk about number 1 overall picks in a second here. Mm-hmm. The AFC South, will continue. The Houston Texans and the Colts. Texans ended up getting the win only by a field goal. Houston's offense struggled, but there was a couple explosive passes. Now, Stephon Diggs is gone now.
Yeah.
All right.
That sucks.
Stephon Diggs is out for the season. I don't know if this is going to sound crazy, but I think the Texans are going to be totally fine. Last year, they seemed to operate best with Nico Collins and Tank Dell. And Nico Collins is getting closer to coming back. That's what I read today. And Tank Dell should be good to go pretty soon. So they're going to have those two on the field. Of course, my boy, Xavier Hutchinson, he's going to have to take a larger role. But that's exciting. You know, we'll see how he does. He's been getting a larger snap count the last 2-3 weeks. So it looks like they want to get him more involved in the game. The Colts, they were in this game, you know, late. They had a chance, but strip sack steals the deal. The Colts, Anthony Richardson, I don't know what they're going to do because it seems like they are maybe looking at this from we have to play him for him to grow. But it's like, you know, that there's a guy on the bench that gives you a better chance to win, right? You know that Flacco gives you a better shot. So I don't know what those conversations are like, you know, when it comes to what's our long-term plan and what's our short-term plan. But the Colts, they're definitely a tough team to play every single week. It's just they're probably not going to win most of them. They're going to be right there. I think their point differential is going to be fairly low by the end of the year, but I think that they'll end up, you know, being a team with a losing record. And I just don't think Anthony Richardson's ready to play in the NFL.
He just continues to not look good, and this is a bad look. This is a bad look. There was one point during the game where he kind of tapped his helmet. Right?
Oh, you're going to talk about... I didn't know if we were going to go there.
Tap his helmet. He's like, sub me in. And they asked him about it, and he goes, I was tired. I ain't going to lie. That was a lot of running right there. I didn't think I'd be able to do the next play, so I told him that I needed a break right there. How is your quarterback going, coach, sub me in, coach, after running? Like, you don't see Jaden Daniels doing that. You don't see Caleb Williams. Bo Nix is good on his legs. You don't see him going for 30 yards of rush for a first down and going, coach, sub me in. Motherfucker, get back in there and pass the goddamn ball. Like, that is a bad look. And I don't know if Ginge is in here or not. I haven't seen him in the chat yet, but as a Colts fan, what do you do with that? Like that's a rough look, no matter what you are. Like, if you're Lamar Jackson, if you're a fucking statue like Peyton Manning was,
you've never seen it. You've never seen it.
That's just that is just unheard of.
It's also like an unspoken rule that coaches, especially your veteran coaches, especially the Colts head coach, I'm blanking on his name right now.
Steichen.
Yeah, Shane Steichen. Like, if your quarterback goes on a 20-yard run or something like that, guess what? The next play's a run. They know when the quarterback needs a break. They don't call a long-winded play. That's what they're doing. The same thing if you have a receiver and you run a 70-yard streak, they're going to run straight to the sideline and take the next play off. Like, he should have known that you got to trust your play caller. He's going to see that you're obviously exhausted, and he's going to probably just do, hey, we're going to run a toss here, and then we'll get back to, you know, our normal offense. But I don't get it.
I don't know, man. That was a rough look for Anthony Richardson, and
then he told us,
Bill with the membership, and it goes to American Boys, someone we have zero idea who it is.
He
But
is
thank you,
now
Bill.
a member. Yeah, but it's like he shared the information.
Yeah,
He
don't
volunteered it. Like
share
he
that
should he
information.
should have just been like, I had something going on, but it was nothing.
Like
Yeah.
maybe be vague with it, but he's like, yeah, I was tired. Not gonna lie, dude. You play football. You've played football,
Bro,
for
I'm not gonna
years.
tire. I'm not gonna lie. I was exhausted.
I was fucking spent, bro.
I thought about going in the locker room for the rest of the quarter, but I was like, that's a bad look, so I just took the playoff.
Oh my god, that's just to me like that is hilarious. And if my quarterback does that, I'm just like, dude, what? Like, you're right though. Run the next play. Give it to Jonathan Taylor. Do a toss. Do something that is going to take some time and zero effort from Anthony Richardson. But the fact that he's like, yo, coach, it's like, no, motherfucker, stay in there. We're going to run the ball or something. Bad luck. I feel like Colts fans are up to here with Anthony Richardson's bullshit. Like, he can't throw flat. He runs on every play that he feels even the slightest bit of pressure. He throws a deep ball, but even that isn't like amazing. And just saying, yeah, I'm about as pumped as Bill is about Jones. So there you go. From a Colts fan, you got that. So they are benching him for Joe Flacco week 9. So they have made the executive decision. Gingy, I'm sure you're very happy about that. Not a good look. Not a good look by Anthony Richardson and the Colts. Jonathan Taylor went for over 100 yards again and a touchdown. So, good on him. Like he got paid and he's like, yo, I'm still producing. So the Colts kept this close. And Stroud made up for his terrible, terrible game last week, threw for 285 yards and a touchdown pass. Joe Mixon rushed for a touchdown. Tank Dell kind of finally showed up this season and caught a touchdown pass. But the loss of Stephon Diggs is huge. Nico Collins, I think, finally gets off the IR following this week 8. So whether or not he plays in week 9, not sure yet. But like you said, Tank Dell's going to have to take a bigger role. Xavier Hutchinson's going to have to take a bigger role. Joe Mixon, luckily, has kind of stabilized that running game for them, which, I didn't feel was a problem last year, but you got to upgrade over Singletary. So I get it. But, the Texans get this win, and it's a close one against the Colts. And they look a little bit better on the offensive side, especially doing that. So going forward, you hope the Texans can kind of recreate this offensive side, something that we've seen all of last year and games here and there this year. You just hope that they can kind of catch their stride here soon, because you want them to just run away with this division, really. I mean, they're the clear-cut favorite, especially with all the shit everybody else is going through in terms of quarterback and offensive play. Like, this is clearly the Texans' division to lose, but if they keep playing the way they played this game, offensively, yards, run game, unlike last week where they played some shitty games, especially earlier this season, that's what you expect. Like, that's what you need. So the Texans, if they continue to do this, they're going to be a juggernaut in the AFC. Right now, they look like, honestly, they look just a little bit better than the Chiefs. Like,
Yeah, I would agree with that. Kind of.
A lot of close games. A lot of close games where I'm just like, did you need to lose that one? You know what I mean? Like 86 yards for CJ Stroud last week against the Packers. Don't get me wrong, Packers have a great defense, but like, you're CJ Stroud, bro. Like, get it done.
Like, you're not going to see Mahomes have an 86 yard.
No, no, you're not. Very rarely do you have that, even in years like this year where it's a down year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Tua comes back after his injury, and I thought this was going to be a big win for Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And Arizona, they spoiled it. They came in and they end up winning this game 28-27. I mean, it's worth mentioning right now, Arizona's the team to beat in their division. And they have won consecutive games now. I think they've won 3 in a row. And these are not easy wins.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Jonathan Gannon, and now it's like they actually, you got to give the defense some credit. This is a really good offense with explosive players.
Yeah.
And they limited Miami's offense to only 0.208 EPA per play and only allowed 5 explosive passes and only 234 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kyler Murray, he had 321 passing yards, 2 big-time throws. And you're like, man, when Arizona is really playing good ball, you get what you had week 1 where they go into Buffalo and they almost beat the Bills.
Yeah.
And people are like, nah, I'm out on Arizona. And I was kind of liking them earlier in the year, and then they started losing. And I was like, I don't know, maybe. And then it was around week 4, and I said, I got it. Arizona is going to be that team that they're just going to win a game, and you're going to be like, how did they win that? And then they're going to lose a game, and then they're going to win 2, and you're going to buy back in, and then they're going to lose, and they're going to win 3 in a row. And it's going to be a little bit of a roller coaster because they're not perfect. There are a lot of young players on this team. They did draft like 12 players in the draft, and they have a lot of young players that are finding their way right now. But Arizona, to me, looks like an organization going in the right direction. They look like a team that is going to continue to get better. And Kyler Murray, say what you want about him, but he's not in the conversation of guys that are going to be replaced. He is the quarterback of the franchise.
Yep.
And arguably, he outdueled Tua Tagovailoa in his big game with better weapons.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot to like about Arizona right now. I still think the Rams are better, but I think Arizona is going to continue to make it harder and harder for us to keep them out of the playoffs.
You heard it here first. Kyle gets hard by the Cardinals. Cardinals make Kyle hard. In
the playoffs.
Only in the playoffs does Kyle get hard by the Cardinals. This was a really good game for Marvin Harrison Jr. Like all the hype around him, like he's been kind of not necessarily the number 1 wide receiver, really. Like he was the first one picked, but it's really been all about Malik Neighbors. Brian Thomas Jr. on the Jags has looked good as of late. And really Rome Odunze and Marvin Harrison Jr. have kind of just been like, yeah, they get catches here and there, right? Like they get their, the catch here and there. But this game for Marvin Harrison Jr. was awesome. 6 receptions, 111 yards, and a touchdown. Like you said it, Kyler Murray is going to be the guy here. And if Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be the number 1 wide receiver, that connection needs to continue that way, because that's the only way I feel like this offense is going to keep moving forward and winning games like this, is when Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray are connecting like that. You got Trey McBride there, who I called last year and over the offseason. I was like, Trey McBride, fucking buy high, buy low on Trey McBride, because he's going to be doing really well. And he had a really good game. And of course, I had him on my bench. Regardless, 9 receptions, 124 yards, 0 touchdowns, but he's going to be, I think he was like the only tight end this week to not have a touchdown on National Tight Ends Day.
Dude, they all went off.
They all ate on Sunday, man. But he was the only one without a touchdown, but he still had a lot of yards. So this offense looks good. You mentioned the draft and how many players the Cardinals drafted, right? Like you said, out of those 12, you got to have at least half of those guys hit. And hopefully they do. What the Cardinals need to do this upcoming draft, regardless where they pick, regardless where they end up at the end of the season, is invest in your defense now, because you are bottom of the league in terms of yards per game, 376 yards a game, 403 over the last 3 games. That's the average. So you need to get guys who can get in the quarterback's face, guys who can get interceptions, guys who can just create pressure and be able to strip the ball and create turnovers, because right now that's just the biggest knock on Arizona, is their defense is pretty trash. The The offense side of the ball, perfect. Even James Conner kind of like wishy-washy a little bit, but still ran it in for a touchdown. So Arizona Cardinals right now, I believe right now at the top of the NFC West. If they continue to kind of do this, like win one, lose one, win two, maybe lose one, and then win a couple more, I don't know. I don't know what that means for where they're going to be at the end of the year. But if they can just string a couple more winning streaks or continue a winning streak, then they're probably going to be in the best position to win the NFC West at the end of the year. Them or the Rams. I mean, it's really up to them to beat out the 49ers. I don't know if the Seahawks got it in them this year because they have been trash at home. Trash.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. All right. Of course, there was an NFC South rivalry game. The Atlanta Falcons.
Every week.
Yeah. Atlanta and the Tampa Bay Bucks. Tampa, the week before on primetime, they lose Chris Godwin and they lose Mike Evans. Chris Godwin fractures his ankle and out for the year. Mike Evans, they want to sideline until the bye week, and hopefully he'll be able to come back after the bye week. But you kind of went into this game and you're like, well, I guess Auden, the tight end, I guess he's like their guy. And in
a for the D real
fantasy
quick.
league, I actually flexed him, Cade Auden.
I'm going to pee for the D real quick. Be right back.
I actually ended up flexing him, and it was a great decision because he was the offense. I mean, he was everything. And I thought Tampa played really close when you consider the situation that they were in with injuries. Baker Mayfield and Kirk Cousins, it was a really back and forth game in the first half. Both of them combined for 5 touchdown passes and 41 points, just showing off that they're both gunslingers. Now, it kind of tapered off in the second half, but it was still a really exciting second half. 2 Buccaneers interceptions, a safety, and an Atlanta Falcons missed field goal later in the game. So there's a lot going on. Mayfield had a chance to put them in position for a game-winning drive, and the Falcons defense ends up holding strong and sealing the win, but a very good game. And this is one of those games where you look at and you're like, man, if they had their weapons, if they had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, I really think Tampa's the better team. But Atlanta, they continue to win their close games, and I'm starting to think it's a Kirk Cousins thing. With the Vikings last year, they were the first team ever to have over double-digit wins with a negative point differential. You look at their wins that they've had this season, they should have lost 3 of them at least, and somehow they come on top. And I mean, you look at Luck. Luck is, dropped interceptions, penalties that have gone your way, injuries, key injuries at the time that you play them. Atlanta's been very lucky this season, and I think that, they're taking advantage of it, which is what good teams do. So credit Atlanta for being able to get the job done. And also credit Tampa Bay for how they played in this game. They were at home, and this was a very, very good game. My player of the game is going to be Jesse Bates. They bring in 2 great safeties, one from Denver, one from Cincinnati. Jesse Bates, the 5th highest paid safety in the NFL, and he looks like one of the most cost-effective signings in recent memory. When you watch Atlanta play, you're like, maybe he should be the highest paid safety. He is playing that good.
Yeah.
This game specifically, he forced the fumble. He had an interception. He made 3 stops against Tampa when they needed a first down, and he had a 90.7 PFF overall grade.
Wow.
Just playing out of this world. He was a huge reason Atlanta got this win, and that's what free agency is all about.
Kyle, do you know the Falcons' record against the NFC South?
4-0.
4-0. 4-0. They're taking this division. regardless, they are winning this division. Kyle says no. They own the NFC South. But you're right. A lot of these have been last second touchdowns, have been overtime wins when odds were stacked against them. But Kirk Cousins, man, he's kind of like, I feel like he's starting to settle down a little bit in Atlanta. You know, come into the trap, take your trap type of Kirk Cousins. He threw for 4 touchdowns, 276 yards. Just a really good outing for Kirk Cousins and this Atlanta team. So good on them for taking advantage, not taking advantage, but beating their divisional opponents and being able to leverage that for the standings too, because everybody else has at least 2 losses in that division. And it's going to kind of be that way this entire season. But the Falcons are doing really well. Their offense is starting to kind of, okay, maybe it's not close games anymore. I mean, this one was somewhat of a close game. They won by 5. But also you look at the other side and it's the Bucs, and they're just missing their most important players. You mentioned Cade Otton, their tight end. I think he was the one that scored for them, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. He had 2 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. National Tight End Day. I'm telling you, if I had known it was National Tight End Day, I probably would have been like, Kyle, bet every tight end on a 13-leg parlay to get a touchdown.
Would have hit.
It would have hit, except I know you would have had Trey McBride, and he would have been the only one to not have gotten a touchdown for you.
That would have been my luck.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, the Bucs are missing their important guys, and oh god, the uniforms, the orange,
disgusting. The creamsicle.
You don't like them? The creamsicles?
No, I'm just kidding. I love them.
Oh, okay. You're high. I was about to say you're high. I love.
I meant like disgusting, like nasty.
Like damn, she bad like that.
Like those are disgusting.
Kyle loves them. Usually in those uniforms you're gonna win, but when the Falcons and Kirk Cousins come into town, I don't know, man. It might not even be up to the uniforms anymore. But great on the Falcons to be able to do this to the division. I mean, 4-0 and still winning games as they are. Whatever way it is, right? They move on to 5-3 and they have a pretty clear stranglehold on the division. And I might actually get the NFC South division winner right this year. We'll see.
All right, Rick.
Mm-hmm.
It's time. Now, I don't want to pour salt in the wound, but I want to have. I really don't. I just want to have an honest conversation about Caleb Williams, and it's not a bad one. It's not a bad one. It's not about Caleb Williams. It's about number 1 overall picks, because Jinja made a comment about Joe Burrow, and I looked into it and I was like, you're right. He did only have that one good season at LSU, but for some reason it was like, I don't know. I just felt so sure that he was going to be a Hall of Famer. And Trevor Lawrence too, another guy that, number 1 overall pick. And it's like, of course he's going to be awesome. And you're seeing them both struggle right now. And I'm wondering how much hype distracts us a little bit from really gauging the players, because as we know, when you are always seeing positive stuff about somebody, it does change your output for one way or the other. You become a hater or you become like a big supporter. Now, I'm looking at the numbers from Caleb Williams, and this is kind of where I'm at right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Now hear me out. Week 1, he had to go against the best passing defense in the league. And it wasn't his best game. All right. He ends up throwing for 93 yards, no touchdown. It was his first game, so it's like, whatever, we'll give him a break. And then you go into week 2 and you're playing the 3rd best passing defense in the league, which is Houston. And it's been long enough now where these rankings matter. It's not like week 1 where it's like, who knows what's going to happen. So Houston is 3rd, and he had 174 yards, 2 picks, no touchdowns. Then the Rams, 16th. Okay, so we're talking exactly the middle of the league, 157 yards. He gets his first passing touchdown. And you're like, okay, that's definitely an improvement. Then he goes on this stretch of games where he plays the 24th, 25th, and 31st passing defense. And in those games, he throws 363 yards against the Colts in 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Panthers, he goes 300 yards, 304 to be exact, 2 touchdowns, no picks. And then, of course, the London game, he throws for 226 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 pick. And then it's like Caleb Williams this is a playoff team right now.
Yeah.
And you totally just forgot about what happened when he played those 1 and 3 and 16th ranked defenses. Here comes the Commanders, the 6th ranked passing defense in the league. And he goes 10 for 24, 131 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. There has been a problem against stronger opponents. And I feel like that's totally normal. It's to be expected. But I feel like because Caleb Williams was crowned as the next Patrick Mahomes, it just, to me, it's not fair, because I ran the numbers. I was counting it. There's been over 1,200, I believe, quarterbacks drafted in the NFL. And there's only been 1 Patrick Mahomes and 1 Tom Brady. And all of these quarterbacks, these Joe Burrows, these Trevor Lawrence, they're all like, oh, this is going to be that guy. It's 1 out of 1,000. It really is. And it's not looking like, to me, that Caleb Williams, I'm not saying that he's not going to work out. I'm just saying at this point in his career, there has been a serious problem against top 10 passing defenses where I want to see him perform better. And I think it's not his fault. I think it's the scheme, because people were comparing after Bo Nix's game against the Panthers, which, of course, he had a good game against the Panthers. So did Caleb Williams.
Everyone's having a great game.
Everyone's having a good game against the Panthers. But what does Bo have? Like, the Bears have the weapons that the Broncos don't. But Bo has Sean Payton. You guys don't have somebody like that over there. And I think it's starting, to me at least, be an issue where it's getting to the point where when it comes to making a prediction, I'm going to look up the passing defense for whoever the Bears are playing. And that shouldn't be the case, for any team. And it feels like the Bears just haven't found a way when they're playing a top 10 passing defense to make the passing game an effective part of the game. And I mean, there's been another quarterback, Zach Wilson, his first game as a rookie, he went against the Panthers, who had the 3rd ranked passing defense that year, and he went for 258 and 2 touchdowns. The next week, he had to play New England, who had the 4th ranked passing defense. He threw for 210 yards. And then they played Denver, the 8th, and he had 160 yards, but he did throw 7 picks in those 3 games. So, the numbers, if you just look at the numbers, we would say Zach Wilson was an utter failure. But those games came for Zach Wilson, those 300-yard games. Once he played Tennessee, the 25th ranked passing defense, he throws for 300 yards. So, but we don't feel that way about Caleb Williams, right? We're like, he's not even in the same light, because Caleb Williams was crowned as the next Patrick Mahomes. And honestly, when it comes to like just his mechanics, he's way better than Zach Wilson in a lot of ways. But I feel like he's getting a huge benefit of the doubt because of his name and because of the hype. When if you just pulled the numbers away from the name, you would be like, this is just a typical rookie. This is not like there's nothing bad about it, but there's nothing great about it. In the Bears, with all of their weapons, if Caleb Williams truly has the mechanics to be a legendary quarterback, they have to figure out what it is about their play calling and their scheme that is making the Bears so bad offensively against any defense ranked top 10, because that just can't continue, especially when you see the success that Jaden Daniels is having and other quarterbacks have had. This is, I don't think it's a Caleb Williams problem yet. I do think that the Bears need to make some kind of change offensively to help him out, and then we can evaluate if it's Caleb Williams or not. But it's only week 8, so let's just chill out. But it is worth visiting halfway through the season that we want to see Caleb Williams have a big game against a top 10 defense.
The only thing I'm going to disagree with you about, which, by the way, that was great. I like the way you said that. I like the way you laid it out. I think at the beginning you're like, it might be a hit piece on Caleb, and this isn't a hit piece on Caleb whatsoever, at least not the way I took it. The only thing I'm going to disagree about is that Caleb Williams gets the benefit of the doubt. He does not get the benefit of the doubt. He gets shit on for being the number 1 overall pick, and it is because of the hype going into the draft, the painted nails, the crying about after a loss when he was still at USC, the fact that he gets told or the media saying he's the next Patrick Mahomes. It's all of these things wrapped up into one. So when Caleb has a bad game against the Titans, for example, his 93-yard game, you could see the comments on every post like, oh, this is your number 1 guy. This is the next Patrick Mahomes. He struggles against the Texans. Oh, clearly he's not ready to do this, to do that. Then he has all these games. And then it's like, oh, but who's he playing? Right. And it's not to say that people are wrong in saying these things. It's like, yeah, of course it's the Panthers. Of course it's the 20th best passing defense. Of course it's these guys, but I don't think he gets the benefit of the doubt like this season at all. And that's coming from a Bears fan who sees the posts, who sees the hate. And I get it. He's the number 1 overall pick. He had all this hype going into it. I totally get it. Jaden Daniels didn't get as much hype, although I feel like after winning the Heisman, you do get hype going into the draft. And he's doing spectacular. He is evading pressure. He's throwing bombs. He's accurate as hell. The most accurate amongst all rookie quarterbacks. And I think rookie record accurate type of numbers is what he's having.
He could win MVP.
Yeah, and he's
play caller.
He's already in talks too, right? Like he's in those conversations, and I feel like he has done nothing but do well. He's doing nothing but do well in the NFL for Jaden Daniels. Caleb Williams brings all that stuff from the preseason and the hype and things like that. So I get that. I totally get that. Now we have to look at and I don't want to go into too much stuff, but I do want to kind of point this out, is we have to look at week 1, right? Week 1, you said it yourself. Like the coaching is not there. Bo Nix has a great offensive play caller, who's someone who's won a Super Bowl and is the head coach and knows exactly how he wants to run his organization, has a vision and is going with that fucking vision, right? Like, and it's clearly paying off with the Broncos being 5-3. Now, you look at the Commanders, they bring in a new coaching staff. They bring in a brand new offensive coordinator in Cliff Kingsbury, who was a college coach. And I mean, I say that kind of like whatever. All these coaches have been college coaches, I feel like, before, but who's been in college, I think maybe the most recently on that staff. So he's able to understand how to call this offense for Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams has Shane Waldron, who Seattle Seahawks fans and even Jackson Smith and Jigba were like, right? So, and Matt Eberflus as his defensive head coach. So you're right. The coaching is not there. And that is something that I want to stress, because Shane Waldron, for the first 2 weeks, his offense was dog shit. It literally took Cole Kmet, Caleb Williams, DeAndre Swift, fucking DJ Moore to go up to him and be like, dude, we've got to play offense that looks like it cares about scoring points. And then what do? Right? Like they go from calling wildcat on 1st and goal and option plays on 1st and goal to let's give it to Roschon Johnson, our heavy duty back in goal line situations. And then you start winning games. Again, Who did they win games against? 100%. You're not far off. But we were in that Texans game to the last minute. We had a 2-minute drill that Caleb Williams, I think, threw an interception on, or it was a 4-and-out, whatever it was. That game against the Colts, Anthony Richardson was giving us that game. And literally, again, that was part of that Shane Waldron bullshit offensive play calling. This game against the Commanders, Caleb Williams had excellent plays to get 2 touchdown drives. Now, did he throw a touchdown? No, but he had an awesome sidearm pass to DeAndre Carter to get at the 1-yard line so Roschon can run it in. But what happened between that first and that second touchdown was the Bears got down to the 2-yard line, and guess what Shane Waldron did? Shane Waldron decided to hand it off to our backup center, Doug Kramer Jr., to run it in. And everyone in this chat who was with me on Sunday while I was streaming that game, prior to that, I was like, give it to Roschon Johnson, Shane. This is a no-think situation. Give it to Roschon. Give it to Roschon. I must have said give it to Roschon 30 times. My wife probably thought I was watching a porn or something. Give it to Roschon. Give it to him. You know what I mean? But what does he do? He gives it to Doug fucking Kramer and he fumbles it on the handoff. That is just questionable play calling. And KC said canine excrement. Exactly. So for you to say that the coaching staff is the reason that Caleb Williams doesn't look great against these top ranked defenses in terms of passing defenses, you're absolutely right. This coaching staff right now could not call worse games, especially Shane Waldron at the 2-yard line. You give your backup center. But
you can't get cute.
You can't get cute. And I was listening to some podcasts, Bears podcast, Chicago podcast, all talking about this. It's like you give it to your backup center when you're at the 2-yard line, when you're up 3 touchdowns and you want to fuck with them. When that was a play you want to do in the Panthers game.
That's what the Lions should have done against the Titans.
Exactly. And that's what the Lions could do. They could probably give it to Penei Sewell and Sewell fucking barrel in for a touchdown, because that's the type of coaching we have. And the Bears for so long have fucked it up where it's like you draft a quarterback, you keep the same coaching staff from last year. You give them the year, you fire the coaching staff, you bring in a new coaching staff. That coaching staff looks terrible with the quarterback. You get rid of the quarterback, you bring in a new coaching staff, you go a year, it's bad, you draft a quarterback, and you keep the, it's like, this is literally the definition of insanity. Like what you guys are doing in terms of organization from top to bottom is failing a guy like Caleb Williams and a team, at least on the offensive side, because the defensive side is fine. On the offensive side, you're failing them. The biggest conversation point going into this year was Caleb Williams is going to have one of the best situations going into an NFL team that any rookie has ever had. Little did they know that the coaching staff was going to just tear all that down. Now, the Bears still have a winning record.
Yeah.
And yes, the games that they've won, they're 4-3, are against bad defenses and bad teams in general. The Rams
can only beat the teams on your schedule.
And you can only beat the teams on your schedule. And I've been pounding that drum this entire season. But yes, you're right. If Matthew Stafford had Puka Nacua and he had Cooper Kupp, that game may look differently. Now, I'm not going to shit on the defense, because the defense has been the best, if not the most consistent unit for a long time. I mean, I think that game against the Commanders was their 16th game in a row that they don't allow an opening drive touchdown. This is their 10th, 11th, 12th game in a row that they allow less than 21 points. Like, the defense is fine.
The defense is doing it.
The defense is elite. It is literally elite. Did they give up a lot of yards to Jane Daniels in that offense? Yes. But what do they do in the red zone? They shut them down to field goals, right? And they didn't block one because the kicker for Washington just kicked it terribly, and it didn't go into the end. It didn't go anywhere near the goalpost. But there was no block. But they have done everything that they have been asked to do on the defensive side. It's just Shane Waldron, Eberflus, those decision makers are making bad calls, and they are killing the Bears. Now, the Commanders needed a Hail Mary touchdown to win the game.
Yeah.
That's a lucky play unless you're Aaron fucking Rodgers.
Right.
But that's a lucky play. Now, did Tyreek Stevenson, should he have not been celebrating with fans while the play was live? 100%, dude. Don't do that dumb shit. And then tip it into the end zone? Yes, 100%, right? Like, but your assessment of Caleb Williams is not off at all, because that's exactly what I'm thinking. The coaching staff is bad. They are not like a bye week into 3/4 of that shit. That's what you use the bye week for, to not score for 3/4 in this game. It was infuriating, but no, I couldn't agree more. Like the coaching staff is failing Caleb Williams, and unfortunately, they're probably, depending on how the rest of the season goes, they're probably going to do the same thing that the Bears always do. Is if the season goes bad the rest of the way, they're going to fire Eberflus. His entire staff is gone. They're going to bring in a new coach, and who knows how the fuck that's going to go. The only exception I'm going to make at this point is if they bring in Ben Johnson from the Lions. Apparently, Ben Johnson was eyeing the Chicago job last year, but Ryan Poles and the ownership were not budging from Eberflus. So that is pretty deflating in itself, to know that we could have maybe had Ben Johnson and he not decided to stay in Detroit, and Ryan Poles and and ownership didn't decide to stay with Eberflus and bring in Shane Waldron. But that's
it could
kind of
happen.
the only, yeah,
At the end
and
of this year.
yeah, 100%. If it does, awesome. I want the Bears to finally get this right, and they have the worst luck in attempting to get something right. Like, the best year that I can remember in the last decade is 2018, when they brought in Nagy and he won Coach of the Year, and the Bears lost in the playoffs because of Cody fucking Parkey. Like, that's the best year that the Bears have had in the last decade. It really is. But again, this game, you come off the bye, you don't score for 3/4. Your defense does what your defense has been doing, and Jane Daniels is a fucking superstar. He got out of pressure multiple times. He threw it down the field. Scary Terry is a legit wide receiver. He is so good. And now he has a quarterback that can throw it to him and who looks like a franchise quarterback moving forward, possible offensive rookie of the year award, possible talks of MVP. So that whole team on the offensive side is looking better. Brian Robinson was running the ball pretty well, but the Bears were able to kind of tame him again. The red zone offense for the Commanders has not looked good, unfortunately, but that may be credit to the Bears defense of being so good. But you know, all I can say about the Bears is their offense looks shit after a bye week for 3/4. They didn't score until less than a minute left in the third quarter, when DeAndre Swift had that little end around to the left side for 52 yards for a touchdown. That's what you needed to score. A 52-yard run by DeAndre Swift, who's looked better, by the way, in recent weeks. But yeah, the Bears right now, the Bears coaching staff is failing Caleb Williams to a degree that I don't know if this continues throughout the year. I don't know if you can bring back Flus. I don't know if you can bring back Shane Waldron. And really, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. But the Bears defense did their job. It's just the offense could not come out of the hole that they dug for themselves. So,
Yeah,
I don't know.
And I'm telling you, once Caleb Williams has a game against the top 10 passing, it's going to be like I'm going to be a believer immediately. Like, not in like a couple weeks. I'm not going to be like, I need to see it. I just need to see it once, because I went through this deep dive and I'm like, well, what about college? And in college, in his whole career from 21 to 23, he only played 5 teams that had a top 25 defense. I'm talking top 25. And one of them, of course, Notre Dame in 23, where he threw 3 picks. And we've talked about that one. Oregon State in 2022, 44 completion percentage, 16 for 36. Oklahoma State in 21. Baylor, Iowa State University, and Oklahoma State all in 2021. Those first 2 games, Baylor and Iowa State, he had 9 and 8 completions.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, this goes back to college. I need to see this now we're in the NFL, right? It's much more difficult. And
Yeah.
you could make an argument too that the coaching at USC hasn't been great, because USC has, I mean, I think their coach is a little overrated. He's supposed to be this great coach, and yet he hasn't done anything with a ton of talent. Talking about Lincoln Riley. And of course, now the Bears, it's not like he's got great coaches now. I feel like Caleb Williams might be one of those guys that is really good in spite of coaching. And he's kind of propped up these coaches his whole career.
Yeah.
And it'll be amazing to see what happens when he gets good coaching. But I mean, there's not yet does Caleb Williams have an impressive, man, he really lit up that defense. That was a good defense he lit up. And I think you got to see it at least one time.
Yeah, I don't take the college numbers really to heart anymore. I mean, it's different. It's a different game. I get what you're saying. But in this game, like in the fourth quarter, he had 2 drives, the fumble at the goal line by Doug Kramer, and then the handoff to Roschon Johnson for a touchdown to get the lead, right? Like those 2 drives are game-winning drives. They're game-winning drives. It's the call to Doug Kramer that fucked it up. There was at that point, there was maybe about 4 to 5 minutes left in the game. If you get that score and then you get the 2-point conversion, you're in the lead. Do you give Jaden Daniels and the Commanders a shit ton of time? Yes. But you also have the opportunity to, again, hold them to a field goal, possibly tie it. And if they don't get the 2-point conversion, go up by 2. But now you've seen what Caleb Williams has done in crunch time, in a sense, to get his team down the field when it matters the most.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm very confident. Yes, he can win it. He can get down there. Now, obviously against the Texans, that's a difficult task to do week 2. But Caleb Williams showed you that he can, like you said, he can win and he can look good and make the plays that need to be made despite of what coaching does to him. I want to say this because I feel like there's just seeing all the comments and stuff, and I really shouldn't react to it, but I have 0 doubts about Caleb Williams now. 0 doubts. I know you still need a game against a top defense, at least passing defense, to kind of believe, but for me, those drives against the Commanders and what that defense and the Commanders, which was stellar. Yeah, they were stellar for 3 quarters.
I don't have doubts about Caleb Williams.
Yeah. I just want to say, looking at all the comments and things like that, Jaden Daniels is doing really well. I have 0 doubts about Caleb. 0 doubts, and I'm glad. If we could do it over, if we could do the draft over again, knowing what we know now, I still think the Bears take Caleb Williams. No matter what. I like Jaden Daniels, but it's been 8 weeks, right? There does have to be a little bit of grace to these guys because some rookies start off hot, some rookies start off a little rough, and then they go throughout the season. And then 2 years, 3 years, RG3, Andrew Luck, Trevor Lawrence had a bad fucking start to his NFL career. Joe Burrow got injured his first year. Josh Allen didn't look good his first couple of years or so. So there's a lot of grace and a lot of still what ifs up in the air. But if I'm being honest, I'm not taking Jaden Daniels. I say this as the Bears, right? I don't think the Bears still take Jaden Daniels. I still think they take Caleb Williams, and I'm 0 doubts about Caleb Williams. I am still sold on Caleb Williams, especially those last couple drives in this game against the Commanders.
Yeah, of course, RG3. I mean, a lot of those guys, injuries, that's what did it.
Yeah.
The way Jaden plays is, he's going to be more injury prone than Caleb for sure.
He's got to be careful, dude, because he's not a big guy. I think I heard Orlovsky or someone talking about this. Is the rib thing. He was clutching at it a couple times during some hits that the Bears gave him, but he came out and it was still outstanding. But he's definitely got to be a bit more careful in terms of running and getting out and sliding and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and the last thing I'll say, I don't have any doubts Caleb Williams. I think he's a franchise quarterback for the future. Yeah. I just would tone down the Patrick Mahomes stuff
Oh yeah,
until we see
100%.
like you could say like maybe maybe he could win a Super Bowl, but like we're talking about a guy that's trying to win his third in a row.
And his fourth all overall.
Like you can't just throw that out there. Like
in his first 7 seasons.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
never
it's crazy.
happened ever
No.
out of over 1,000 quarterbacks. Like it's just, and it may never happen for another 1,000. So, the Jets, the Jets needed a win, and they lost to the Patriots. Maybe Gerard Mayo's criticism of the team last week, which was criticized by Bill Belichick, maybe that's what did it. They definitely didn't play soft. They showed a lot of mental toughness. It was a dramatic game late in the fourth quarter. Jacoby Brissett took over for Drake May, who got a concussion in the second quarter, and he led the team on a 12-play, 70-yard touchdown drive to put him ahead less than 30 seconds to go. A huge response, and once again, like the Jets' defense is just not what they were last year, and it's very interesting. Because last year, if the Jets could just score more than 20 points, like that was almost a guaranteed win. And this year, I mean, the Jets, they have 22 points. No, it's not a ton, but you're going to let Jacoby Brissett in this offense with no weapons drive on a 70-yard, touchdown drive with the game on the line. I mean, that's not the Jets defense that we've come to know. And before his injury, this is interesting. May had a rush in this game where he reached a speed of 20 miles an hour on a 17-yard touchdown drive, which was the second fastest speed by a quarterback on a touchdown this season. Kyler Murray hit 21 miles an hour, and it's tied for the fourth fastest time on a touchdown run by a quarterback over the past 5 years. Drake May, Bo Nix as well. He's right underneath. He was over 20 miles an hour too. These quarterbacks that are not advertised as being fast are fast. And I don't know if the league's just getting faster, but we're not even like mentioning the speed of some of these guys who have some wheels on them.
Yeah.
I mean, I just was like, really? Drake May's fast? I wouldn't have thought that. But yeah, really fast, especially for, a 6'5" quarterback. Like it's hard to be super fast when you're that tall. A lot of times you're like a giraffe, but the Patriots, they really just put a knife in the hearts of Jets fans right here on Halloween. It's I don't know where the Jets go from here unless they win the rest of their games. It's weird. They're the favorite to beat the Texans on Thursday night. I checked the line right before we went on, and the Jets are 1.5 point favorites to beat the Texans. So I don't know if they're just relying on the Jets to win out, but that's what it's going to take.
Yeah. And real quick, Bill, I know Bill had asked a question about who's getting fired first, Shane Waldron and Matt Eberflus or Dable and Kafka.
Doug Peterson.
Doug Peterson. Yeah, 100%. That's my answer. No, it's Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron. I would do some disgusting things for Brian Dable right now. Speaking of the Jets, their season's over. That's it. That loss, what are they, 5 in a row now that they've lost?
Yep, haven't won since they beat the Patriots week 3.
And this was going to be their first win since beating the Patriots. And then, like you said, Jacoby Brissett goes down the field. This Jets defense is somehow still a top unit in terms of like scoring yards per game, and I think passing yards per game. They're up there. Like they're top half, if not like top third. But somehow it just seems that their offense, and it feels like it's just the same old shit with the Jets, right? It's like their offense just can't do it. Their defense is giving up 21 points, 21.3 points per game or something like that. Their offense scored 22 and still could not come up with a win. Like that, what you said earlier, like the Jets last year needed to score 20 points and they could have had an extra 5 wins probably that season and gone into the playoffs and done this and done that. Aaron Rodgers comes back. They have a magical season after the start of it, right?
It's the penalties, though. They're averaging 10 penalties at home.
Penalties
per
are
game.
huge. Yeah, but I don't know, man. Like they are still somehow a top unit and just still looking like shit. 5 in a row, and especially to the Patriots. I get it's a division opponent, but this, I mean, the last time they looked good was when they beat their division opponent Patriots. We just said that, right? So I don't know. The Jets season I think is cooked because this takes them to what is their record now? 2-6.
2-6. Yeah.
Like who do they play after? If you're losing to the Patriots just because they get called soft,
they got some easy games coming up.
Yeah, but like this was the start of their easy game.
Yeah, it was, and this is why even when you beat a bad team, you got to just be like, wow, we separated ourselves from that bad team because here you go. I mean, it's hard to win in this league. You can't just be like, it's
Absolutely.
the Patriots. They suck. Like, yes, they're not a great team, but still, like neither are the Jets apparently.
And that's with the addition of Davante Adams. He had some sort of speech, I think, after that game they lost, not this past week, but the week prior, that I guess didn't do enough. I don't know what the issue is, but the Jets' next few games, we talked about the Texans and how they're favorites at home. Then they have to go to Arizona to take on the Cardinals, who, I don't know, they're very streaky, but they have games where they look really good. And then they go to the Colts. Honestly, they're probably going to lose 7 in a row up until they get to the Colts. And even the Colts is kind of like a wild card. Like, I feel like, yes, it's hard to win in this league, but I feel like it's harder to lose 5 in a row with Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams, Breece Hall, and a top unit on the defensive side in most aspects. I don't know. To me, that just kind of screams like our season is over and done with. Even with Aaron Rodgers as quarterback, I don't know. Like the interim coach firing Salah, I don't think was a very good idea. And for him to be the first one to get fired like that, a game out from the division, I don't think was a good idea. This guy, the defensive coordinator, who's the interim coach right now, used up all his timeouts in the first quarter. Did you see that? What?
Can't have that.
The Jets are looking like a clown organization right now, and that's rough to say, but they're not looking good right now. They're not looking good. The Patriots on the other side, unfortunately, Drake May, I think, was in concussion protocol, and that's why he got taken out, I think, after like one drive or something like that. But Jacoby Brissett, I mean, he did his job. He came in for Drake May and was able to basically win the game for him. I mean, he didn't have any touchdowns, but most importantly, he didn't have any turnovers. Ramondre Stevenson rushed the ball for 2 touchdowns. Drake May had one in that one drive. So they did enough. They did enough to go down the field and win that game against a tough unit in the Jets. And they were able to shut down their big weapons for the most part, right? Garrett Wilson, 113 yards, was probably the best offensive output by anybody. Davante Adams, 54 yards. Conklin, 42 yards and a touchdown, another tight end touchdown on National Tight Ends Day. But yeah, man, the Jets just, like, no matter what they do, it seems like they're going to lose. And again, I don't know. They're probably going to lose 7 in a row until they meet the Colts in week 9 or week 11.
Yeah.
10,
and
12, whatever.
When do they do it?
Week 11, they meet the Colts.
Okay. Well, we'll see by then if it even matters.
I'm calling them done. I'm calling them done.
The other team that is going in the opposite direction is in their division. It's the Buffalo Bills. The Bills, I mentioned this last week where I threw them, I think, at 3 in my top 5, and I was like, they maybe 4. I was like, they're a team right now that's getting better every single week. You got the defensive unit playing very good right now. You got a good running game. They added Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper, kind of a quiet game, but it was Shakir that stepped up and had a huge game. 31-10. I mean, this is supposed to be a tough place to play. Seattle's going through it right now. Their social media team they've put out something that said like our fans are selling the tickets. Buffalo, was saying, or Geno Smith after the game said it felt like a home game for Buffalo. These like it felt like we were on the road. Like
Maybe win a couple games and give your fans something to go there for, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, yeah, but at the same time, it's like, well, your fans suck. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I mean, they only are loud when you win. I don't know.
yeah, right. Yeah.
The fact is, though, Buffalo's turning in right before our eyes. They're turning into a juggernaut. They are turning into a team that doesn't lose for the rest of the year. And that's what we're dealing with now. The addition of Amari Cooper was not a small thing. It was a huge thing. In Buffalo, which is very important, there's different chapters to the year. And they had their first chapter was pretty good, but then kind of chapter 2, the beginning of it was they went on a 2-game losing streak and it was kind of ugly. This is chapter 3. Chapter 3 is when you want to be playing your best football. Chapter 3 and chapter 4. The teams that heat up now are the teams that go deep into the playoffs. Buffalo looks like, to me, the best team in the AFC right now. And that is crazy considering Stephon Diggs is not on this team, which that was one of my bold predictions. Josh Allen's going to have his best season as a Buffalo Bill without Stephon Diggs, and he's going to win MVP. And all of that is back on the table. The Buffalo Bills dismantle the Seahawks. I don't want to talk too much about the Seahawks because I think the bigger story is Buffalo.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I will say a little bit about the Seahawks, but mostly about the Buffalo defense. Is the defense for Buffalo is, in terms of yards per game, they're giving up 328. Geno Smith at 212 yards passing, 32 rush yards between Smith, Walker, and Charbonnet. Charbonnet had 4 yards. Kenneth Walker had 12. Geno Smith was the leading rusher with 16. That should just tell you how bad the Seahawks offense is. No credit taken away from Buffalo, but you had Geno Smith throw for 400 yards in like week 2, and you can only put up 212 total yards or whatever on a defense that's given up over 300 at home. Do you even is a home advantage even a thing for the Seahawks? It doesn't seem like it. It does not seem like it one bit for the Seahawks. They are, where's their home record? 2-3. They have a winning record on the road at 2-1. You should be 3-2 at home at minimum, 4-1 or something like that, especially the way you started off the year. But you're right. Buffalo is just an absolute beast right now. And adding Amari Cooper was great. Keon Coleman is doing really well. Shakur is doing well as well. He had 107 yards on 9 receptions. Coleman had 70 and a touchdown. Dalton Kincaid had a touchdown, National Tight Ends Day. And Amari Cooper had 1 reception for 3 yards. So not even the addition of Amari Cooper played that huge of a role in this win. That's how good Josh Allen is doing with the weapons that he has. And I think one of our criticisms earlier this year was he needs a little bit more help. And Amari Cooper, while being acquired in week 7 and played for them, is a great distraction. Great for Keon, great for Shakur, it seems like. So the Bills looking like the best team in the AFC for sure right now.
Can't argue with that. The Chargers and the Saints, this was one that I thought was just going to be very, very weird, low scoring, ugly game. And it started off feeling like I was going to be right because the first score was a safety. That's how the first point got put on the board. Of course, I was, doing moving, and I had, Broncos, and I didn't see the play, but I was like, that checks, Yeah. The Chargers, this is them. All right. There's no mystery to the Chargers. There's not really in my opinion, like, I don't know what people expected, but in my opinion, the Chargers were going to be a playoff team year one because Jim Harbaugh is the kind of guy that changes a team's identity. And you can make an argument that this is all happening in perfect time because one thing is actually clear to me, at least, and it's that the offense is getting better every week. You looked at last week, the Chargers didn't score a lot of points and they lost. And yet Herbert threw for over 300 yards. They just had to settle for field goals. And you get the feeling that if the Chargers can start to finish these drives and get, these wide receivers to step up, and maybe they could be, I don't think this year they're going deep into the playoffs, but I think they're a playoff team, and I think they're going to be a 9-win team. We'll see if that's enough to go into the playoffs. I think the AFC West minus the Raiders is going to be tough. But, yeah, I mean, the Saints, on the other hand, it's over. I mean, it feels that way. I don't know when Derek Carr's coming back. I would assume maybe soon because it's an oblique injury, but I don't know what that even means, to be honest. Like, I don't know, like, is that like a 6-week thing? Is that a week thing? Is he done for the year? I mean, the whole thing's just kind of strange with like not getting any real information, but it's like every week he's out and it's like, well, what is it? Why isn't he on IR? Is he on IR? I don't think he is. So, I mean, the Chargers, they're going to continue to run the football and play hard defense, hard-nosed defense. Now, Justin Herbert is going to be the player of the game. People forget who he is, right? This is a guy that...
This year especially, yeah.
Yeah, especially this year. Justin Herbert, you don't accidentally, and you would appreciate this, I would appreciate this more than anybody right now. You don't accidentally throw for 5,000 yards as a rookie. That just doesn't happen.
Exactly.
Like, you do that, and forever, we know that you're very talented. Now, if you're having a year where it doesn't look like that, it's not like we don't know that it's in you. We know that you're a star. We just got to figure out how to tap into that. Now, this game, he went 21 for 34, 288 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 big-time throws, and it was the second straight week where Herbert secured a PFF passing grade of 89.3 or better. So, I mean, he's playing really good football, limiting the mistakes, making great reads. He sees the field exceptionally well. When you watch him play, even when you think you got him, it's like he's got you. It's the same feeling when you're playing Mahomes. You don't really know how they make these plays, but they put the ball in the perfect spot in the situations where it feels like you're about to get him off the field. If the Chargers continue to get better and Justin Herbert's going to be playing at this level, I think the playoffs should be expected for the Chargers.
Yeah, not only Herbert, right? Like Ladd McConkey, 2 touchdowns, a 60-yarder, I believe, in the third quarter. 60-yard score in the third quarter, became the first Chargers rookie receiver in 11 years to have a 100-yard receiving game. So he loves Ladd McConkey, and that connection is going to be awesome. And especially at this point, really, honestly, like I thought Jesse Palmer was going to do something, and that just clearly
Quentin
hasn't
Johnson,
been the case.
Too.
Quentin Johnson looked somewhat decent to begin the year. Honestly, I think he might be injured. I'd have to look that up, but Jesse Palmer, I thought was going to have a good season with them, but we all knew going into this year that Harbaugh and Greg Roman were going to run the ball, and you got to credit them when you got the entire Ravens running back room for the last 2 years. I mean, they're eventually going to get into the end zone, and J.K. Dobbins gets into the end zone on 57 yards. So that's kind of the offense that they were going to run. But you're right. Like, if Herbert could have games like this where it's like, oh, there's the Justin Herbert who for the first 3 years of his career were like, that dude could win a Super Bowl. That dude could get the Chargers to the playoffs if they just stop charging, which they can't. But if he can do that in games where the running game isn't going or something like that, like last week, then they're gonna get it to Lad McConkey, get it to your guy. Then they're gonna be successful. They're gonna be in the playoffs, like you said. I think in the AFC, 9 wins gets you in. I think 9 wins gets you into a wild card spot at this point. Like the AFC,
our division, both of our divisions are going to represent 3 teams.
See, yeah, maybe, because across the board, you look at the AFC and it's not great. I mean, the AFC North has the Steelers in Baltimore.
Yep.
AFC East, the Bills, easy. The South, Houston. And then the West, you're saying it, Kansas City, Denver, and the Chargers. That's 7.
There's your playoffs.
And there's your playoffs. And like I said, I think 9 wins gets you in the AFC. As far as the Saints,
oh, real quick,
I don't know.
Chargering, not a thing anymore. Jim Harbaugh, he took over that, and there's the DNVR podcast. They were talking about, it doesn't matter what the Chargers do, they're always going to find a way to Charger. And I'm like, man, you guys are way off on this. I mean, you don't understand who Jim Harbaugh is. You really don't. Not you, them. Because
I don't know, against the Cardinals, 17-15.
He's putting a whole new philosophy on this team, a whole new identity.
I get that. Totally get that. But you know what was funny? And I only bring this up because you said we mentioned charging, was when the Bears lost to the Commanders on the Hail Mary, Keenan Allen was on the sidelines and laughing because he's like, oh, this is what y'all are. You're not used to this. I've been on the Chargers for my entire career. I'm used to this shit.
Did he say that?
No.
Oh.
But it looked like it. Just the way he reacted to that,
yep.
Wow. You know what I mean? Wow.
That checks. It's me.
That checks.
I'm the problem. It's me.
I hope not. I am also on the same boat with you, where I feel like Jim Harbaugh brings a new culture, brings a new just a new feeling to being a Chargers fan and being a Chargers team. So I think I also believe in that, but they're still charging, you know what I mean? Back to this game though. The Saints, they've got a huge issue without Derek Carr on their roster. Spencer Rattler, Jake Hayner, I don't know what to make of these guys. I mean, I'd rather have Taysom Hill in at quarterback at this point than these fucking guys. Like at least Taysom Hill looks pretty damn decent. But yeah, the Saints. Oh, and did you see the dirty play, by the way, by the Saints defensive guy?
I did, and I showed it at halftime on Sunday Night Football. I think that was right before you joined, or maybe no, that was Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
And yeah, I put it up, I played it, and I showed everybody. What the hell was that?
Mm-hmm.
That's
was
all.
bad.
That was fucked up. Like, what the hell was that? Like that you don't like. That was so obvious.
And the Saints have the history of the whole Bounty Gate.
Yeah, people were attacking Sean Payton for that play. I was like, he
has nothing to do with it. Like
they're like, but the culture's still there. It's like,
well, I mean, they have the history. I don't know about if the culture's still there. This is probably one of the first.
It's been gone for 10 years, and I mean, we haven't.
Yeah, this is the first instance in a long time. So it's the culture has shifted to Dennis Allen and to just mediocrity. But that was a bad play. Credit to the lineman who knocked him the fuck out, by the way. Great job being able to stand up for your QB, because he said, that is a terrible play. And yeah, I'm going to stand up for my quarterback. And Jim Harbaugh is that guy who's like, kill him if he fucks with your quarterback. You know what I mean? So that was a crazy play. Nathan Shepard, Bill, thank you. Shame him and keep your eye on the fines leveled next week. Will do.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
That's
this generation's Ndamukong Suh. He'll be a really nice guy later in life somehow.
Oh yeah, 100%.
All right, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Bengals. This is 2 teams that were both in the Super Bowl the last 2 years, but 2 teams that are just trying to get it right. I thought, this game was interesting because the Bengals were a favorite. And there was a pro bettor talking about this game, and he was like, you know what? Everything's leaning Philly. This is a bet on Joe Burrow. This is nothing more than just Joe Burrow's going to find a way to get it done at home. And we realize, I think now, that their problems with Zach Taylor run a little bit deeper. And this is like the scheme. Like, we know that Joe Burrow's got it in him. We've seen it. But right now, there's something off. So they have to make a major change. Play caller, head coach, whatever it is, they have not adjusted to losing their offensive coordinator to the Tennessee Titans. They haven't. For the Eagles, man, when we did, I was watching our draft, or the draft grades we did the day after the draft. And I remember going through I remember because I saw it today. We were going through the Eagles, and I was like, the Eagles are a Super Bowl contender because of this draft this year. And for some reason, they just didn't really have a great start to the season. And everyone's like, even in this game, they're like taking a struggling Bengals team over the Eagles. The Eagles are 5-2. Okay. The Eagles have 5 wins and 2 losses. And now here's the most important part. Vic Fangio, as a defensive coordinator, best in the league, in my opinion. He has the Eagles playing very good defense as of late. It did take some time. We saw this with Vance Joseph, the 70-point game in Miami, finishes the season as top 10. It takes time for your players to understand the scheme and to buy in and to start being more reactional and not thinking so much on the field. This is where the Eagles are going right now. I think their defense continues to get better. Saquon Barkley, 101 rushing yards. Like Jalen Hurts, definitely a lot to be desired. This is not his best season for whatever reason. He just hasn't been able to get his receivers involved. Devontae Smith, nothing. I mean, literally just pitiful. Like, you see somebody like that have 100-yard games all the time, and now it's crazy if he cracks 40. So the Eagles still, but that's what's scary. They're 5-2. Ton of room to improve. It's kind of like the Chiefs, a good record, and they look beatable. So, but here's the difference: between the Eagles and other teams that look beatable, the Eagles are getting better. And at this point in the season, you're going one or two ways: you're getting better or you're getting worse. And if you think you haven't done anything, you're getting worse. So the Eagles are definitely in that group of teams that are getting better at the right time with a good defense and a strong running game, which happens to be the recipe to winning playoff games.
Yeah, and we got to remember that win in Brazil against Green Bay, Jordan Love got taken out, was injured in that one. They go into Atlanta, or they're at home against Atlanta. They lose by 1. New Orleans, they win by 3. Tampa Bay, they get the shit kicked out of them going to the bye. And guess what happens after the bye? They win 3 in a row. They're top 10 in a lot of aspects, maybe even like top 7, top 6 in defensive stats. That's what you do. And, we got to give credit to Sirianni in this aspect, because you win 3 in a row out of the bye. Not a lot of teams, not a lot of coaches can do that. You're talking about after the bye, you're talking about like Andy Reid, good. Bill Belichick, Harbaugh, good. Like this is like those type of coaching good after the bye. Now, I'm not calling Sirianni any of these guys, but we got to remember, this guy went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. He had an epic meltdown last year, and he has done some questionable things this year.
He hasn't done anything, in my opinion. Like, I think it's all. I'm not even kidding. Like, I feel like Vic Fangio. And then, I mean, he's not even calling the offensive plays. Like,
right, but the head coach is the one setting the tone. Like,
right.
I know there's Eagles fans and probably a lot of other NFL fans who are like, what the fuck does Sirianni do? But this is my thing with Eberflus, is like, somehow he keeps that locker room together, but then he makes boneheaded fucking plays. And it's like, that's Sirianni, but in Chicago. You know what I mean? It's like, it's quizzical what is going on sometimes, some weeks, week in, week out. But to have your team go 3 wins in a row, and that third one being in Cincinnati against Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, wow, that's great. And you're right. Got to give credit to oh my God, Vic Fangio for the defense, because they were struggling to begin the year. And yeah, they've played the Giants. Sure, they've played Cleveland back when they started Deshaun Watson, but you just shut down Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Chase Brown and the running back in that offense. You do start to question Zach Taylor. And I think the questions around Zach Taylor have been circulating for at least 3 weeks now, maybe, at least from what I remember. So I think it's valid to do that, but that shouldn't be taking any credit away from the Eagles defense and what they've been able to accomplish these last few weeks, especially after the bye, because they've been doing really, really well. 5-2. It's when the Washington Commanders are looking excellent this year, like they are still very much in the playoff race as well as the division race. The Eagles and the Bengals 3-5. I'm putting the done chain on them too, dude. They're done.
Are you serious?
Well. They're done. No playoffs. Like Zach Taylor is gonna fuck them over, and even if they do fire him this year, let's say that happens. I don't know if they have enough on the interim side, coaching-wise, to get them into the playoffs, especially with the way Pittsburgh, Tomlin, and the Ravens are playing right now. Like, could there be 3 possible teams from the AFC North in the playoffs? Maybe. The AFC East is dog shit. The AFC South is dog shit. The only ones they have to be better than are the Broncos and the Chargers at this point. The Bengals, can they be better than the Broncos and the Chargers? I don't know. I
look like it right now.
I like I like Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh a lot more than Zach Taylor right now, and any other interim coach right now. Is Joe Burrow not playing amazing? I mean, maybe, but kind of starts from the top down.
Yeah, totally agree with that. The AFC West, we're going to cover them here. The Chiefs and the Raiders. This was your upset of the week, which, to be honest, not a bad pick. Okay, the Raiders did play the Chiefs really close. The game was in Vegas. This is a game that the Raiders almost won, and the Chiefs have yet to win a game in a significant way, right? Another close win. Now the Chiefs acquiring DeAndre Hopkins before the game, I think this is a great move. So Hopkins, I mean, they got him in the middle of the week. He was just kind of getting rolling. Next week, he's going to be on the field probably like 80-90% of the snaps. This week, it was just like, he was in and he was out. Much bigger presence coming. And then also, they lost Juju Smith, returned from his hamstring injury. Xavier Worthy has been kind of the guy that they're relying on, but he's not at that point of his career. He's not a 8 to 10 target a game guy. He's a 4 to 6 target.
And
so
big play type.
They're going to be looking for Hopkins to take, just run with that number 1. And I traded for him. Right the day after the trade, I traded Brian Thomas Jr. for DeAndre Hopkins straight up.
Wow.
And it was like I got insecure about it because he was projected 10 points and Brian Thomas Jr.'s like 17, 16, 15. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? But when you look at the injuries that the Chiefs have had, it's like they need Hopkins to be a 10 to 12 target guy. And also, Brian Thomas Jr. got a rib contusion on Sunday, so he got injured right when I traded him. Not that I'm like cheering for that. It's just, as a Broncos fan, I'm kidding. But
as a Broncos fan,
the Chiefs. I mean, man, the defense rules for Kansas City, and the defense saved them on 2 drives early in the third quarter. The Raiders started their first drive of the third quarter on the Chiefs' 28-yard line. In the second drive, they were on the Kansas City 3. The Raiders came away with a field goal in those 2 drives. This is really a game where the Raiders win if the Chiefs don't play outstanding red zone defense. They forced a fumble. They recovered the fumble by Gardner Minshew. This is the Chiefs, right? Checks. They're going to play really good defense. and then Mahomes is going to do enough to beat you. 27 points. It's not like they didn't score, right?
Yeah.
We are like, the Chiefs, they can't get the offense going. Hey, if you can score 27, I don't care how you do it, right? That's the amount of points that you will win 90% of your games with this defense. So Hopkins, only 2 passes for 29 yards in this game. I think he's just going to play a much bigger role when we see him kind of get rolled into this offense. But for the Raiders, it's kind of like they're going to try to play for their coach, but this is a team that is definitely going in that other direction we talked about earlier.
Yeah, the Raiders, this was the one. This was the one they needed, I feel like, to kind of get Raiders Nation back into it. And again, I had called the the upset alert because I was like, I feel like this might be the first week that the Chiefs lose. What do? You said it perfectly. The defense. Desmond Ridder crying in the locker room, talking about his opportunities. That's it. It's over for the Chiefs. But you said it perfectly. The defense played great red zone defense. They shut the Raiders down when it was needed. And Mahomes, like you said, did enough. I mean, he had more touchdowns than interceptions in this game. So that's a step in the right direction for Mahomes this year. Travis Kelce had a touchdown, and I think, 10 receptions, 90 yards. Xavier Worthy had 4 receptions and a touchdown. You mentioned DeAndre Hopkins not being a huge factor in this game, but it's going to be next week, like you said. You got to give him a week to really kind of get used to it. And DeAndre Hopkins and that Mahomes connection, oh my God, that's going to be crazy. That's going to be an insane connection. And you're going to see that all the way into the Super Bowl, I think. It's going to be that good because the Chiefs are very good at just bringing in some receiver off the stream being like, you're the number one. And that guy being like, okay. And then they go and win a Super Bowl. So look at
Kareem Hunt.
Kareem Hunt's entire career turned into what am I saying? Tannehill, 59 yards and a touchdown. He's had multiple touchdowns in the last 3 weeks when they got him. And great. Thanks for bringing that up, Casey. What about them getting Josh Uche from the Patriots? They needed another player on the defense to kind of rush the quarterback. And I think Uche has had over 20 sacks since 2020 or 2021. So Casey bringing him in, putting him on the same line, or he's a linebacker, but putting him on the same defense as Chris Jones, that's going to be very, very scary. Their defense is already good. Adding Uche to it is going to be even better. The Raiders, 2-6. I don't know what to say about them. They suck. They're pretty trash this year. They're going to be last in the division, and they are going to. Let's just say this: Raiders fans are on Tankathon.com being like, how many more losses do we need to get the second or first pick, and can we trade? That's where they're at right now.
Yay! The Raiders. Fuck you. I bookmark certain things, and before week 1 started, there was a Raider fan that posted, we're gonna own the Chargers just like we do every week, and we're gonna beat the Donkeys just like we do every year. Yeah. And I retweeted it after this game, and I was like, hey man, what's going on? You guys are losing all of your games. Take the L. But today Andy Reid, he did say in his press conference he expects to see more from DeAndre Hopkins Monday night. He played 22 snaps for the Chiefs on Sunday, but there's going to be a lot more of him against Tampa. And Reid said he was chomping at the bit on the sideline, wanting to play more. So we're going to throw him out there. So that is Andy Reid. So we'll see what that looks like, because they definitely do need some kind of true number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah.
Moving on to the last AFC West team, the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos are beating the teams very bad. That they are the bad teams. They're beating them bad. The Saints game, a total blowout. And then this week, I mean, there's the fumble by Lil Jordan Humphrey, and then the Panthers turned it into a touchdown on Patrick Surtain. And how does the team respond? They didn't give up any more points until garbage time, less than 2 minutes left. Patrick Surtain didn't give up another completion, and he had a pick in this game. This defense is just it is just so fun to watch. They are elite in every way. If you are talking about Bo Nix just as a quarterback, he's making his move right now. This is the growth and the progress that we were excited to see. This is why I kept making the shorts that were like, everyone needs to fucking calm down about Bo Nix, because here we are, we're 5-1 in our last 6 games, and Bo Nix, his development is looking really good. He's clearly getting better. He's going to the next level. He is outside of a mid quarterback already. He isn't turning the ball over. He's trusting his receivers more. He's seeing the field better. He's not bailing on plays. His footwork is looking better as well.
Yep.
And when you look at just the AFC in general, right, or the NFL in general, this is the quarterback ranks in October. Passing touchdowns, he has 7. That's first in the NFL. That's everybody. Passing touchdowns to interception ratio, 7-1, first in the NFL. His passing yards, he has 870, first in the NFL. Rushing touchdowns, he has 2, first in the NFL, and he has 3 wins, tied for first in the NFL. Bo Nix is playing very good football, and if you aren't watching, you might miss it, because it's easy to just see the score ticking across the bottom, but it's the way Bo Nix is going through his progressions and delivering great footballs. Like, he is a straight gamer. He is going to be very good in the league. Like, he's going to be our quarterback for a very long time. He's going to compete in the playoffs this year. This is a playoff team. There's no reason to be out on Denver. Their defense is great. They got 3 capable running backs. You saw the tight end step up and play a bigger role. And Courtland Sutton, my God, is he?
Dropping.
I mean, he is very, very good. And it's crazy because, like we said, it's not a talented roster according to PFF. 32nd ranked talented roster. And yet all these guys are making plays. The Cody Bartons, the Justin Chernads. You got 2 guys on the line. You got 3 guys with over 5 sacks on the season. We have Nick Bonito is the first player since Von Miller to have multiple sacks in like 5 straight games.
Let's go.
This and then of course, Surtain, don't even need to bring it up. But this team, they have a recipe to win. They do believe that they're going to win. And what's funny is before, if Denver would have fumbled the ball and the Panthers score, you knew it was over. We had no margin for error. And in the last couple of games, Denver's won, and there's plenty of room for improvement. The last thing I'll say, Bo Nix threw 2 passes that were about 65 yards in the air that went right through Jordan Humphrey's hands, right through them, like literally through them. He just didn't close them. Those plays, and then, of course, Courtland Sutton fumbled on the 1-yard line on a completion. That would have been his 5th touchdown of the night. I mean, it's just right now it's going great. And now here we go on the road, 9.5-point underdogs to play the Ravens. And this is kind of where the rubber meets the road. And we're going to find out what kind of team this is. But right now, Denver hasn't lost in October, and they're getting better every single week. And Bo Nix right now is, I mean, even better than we could have thought. I mean, it's really just fascinating and fun again. We haven't had fun in a decade, and it's just great to be back on this side.
Yeah, and you're right. Like, mistakes like that, you could pretty much close the door on the game, whether that be in the first quarter or fourth quarter. But the Broncos came back. Or they didn't even need to necessarily come back. They said, okay, let's just run our offense like we're supposed to and how we are trained to, and get the guys to get the ball to the guys who we're supposed to and we're going to make a difference. And you end up winning by 14 points against the Panthers.
21
What?
really till the garbage time touchdown at the way end. I mean, Denver had their backups in, and they
Yeah, exactly. So even that is honestly, it's probably a shutout if there's no fumbles. Like if there's no fumbles, those don't turn into points. You're looking at a probably 28-0 win here. So Denver's doing extremely well. The defense, like there's no questions about it.
that was my prediction, by the way. 27
A shutout. I remember you saying that. Yeah. So it was close. It was there. But the defense, there's no question about the defense. The defense is elite. It's up there. It's top 2, top 3 right now in yards and points and whatever. Like a lot of stats across the board. They're up there, top 3. There's no question about that they're going to keep the Broncos in games. The offense has looked nothing but improvement after improvement, week after week. Bo Nix looks like the second best quarterback taken in the draft. And that's what great coaching does, man. Like they could have taken JJ McCarthy. They could have taken Spencer Rattler and turned them into a 5-3 quarterback with the Broncos right now with the way Sean Payton, creates his offense.
This was his guy, though.
And this was his guy.
He thought he was better than JJ McCarthy and better, than he didn't evaluate the top 2, but everyone else, Drake May, all those guys got evaluated. And Sean was like, I feel like this guy can be a Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Bo 6 times 4. Yes, on Sunday. Bo 6 times 4. He ran one in. He threw for 3 touchdowns and ran one in. Yep, I just had to make sure
in the first half. He had 3 total touchdowns, and then he opened the third quarter with 1. But
this offense is looking better, man.
The only thing I'll say is weird. After the game, Sean was really mad. And he was like, because if you watch second half, like Denver, it seemed like they just like the fumble on the goal line. There was these things that happened that Sean was like, he said, let's be real. Like that's just not a really good team right now. Like we should
he said
win.
We could be better, I think was the quote.
Yeah. He's like, we should win these games. But the fact is there's so many plays that we didn't make. There were so many touchdown passes that were dropped. But this could have been a 400-yard game for Bo Nix if his receivers caught the ball. And as a coach, like this is not, we're not going to beat the Ravens like that. You got to catch those balls. You got to do that. And the goal right now is to be, this is not the goal to beat the Panthers. Like it's to be the best we can be. And honestly, it sounds cliche, but there's a lot of things we can clean up and, really compete for real. Yeah. And it's going to be interesting next week against the Ravens because Bo Nix is going to play a real team on the road. And if Denver wins that game, all of a sudden it's Denver's, considered a top 10 team probably in the league. Because right now they're 11 on a lot of the power rankings.
They are. They're up there. They're like early teens right outside the top 10. Yeah, 100%. And again, the offense has looked much better. The guys who were struggling earlier in the season are now starting to pick it up, like Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin. They each had over 40 yards rushing. And while that doesn't seem to be a lot, like 40 yards, like, okay, whatever, it's the fact that they're able to combine for like close to 100 now. And it's just step by step by step.
Yeah.
And getting those wins, racking up those wins, man, is just super important. What did you think, though, about that fake field goal and J.C. Horn, the cornerback for the Carolina Panthers, coming up to Sean Payton at the end of the game?
I was like, well, yeah, we're trying to run the score up. Like, that's the goal every week. Yeah. It's to win in a dominating fashion.
Yeah, you want to keep the foot on gas.
There's a mentality that you're trying to instill in your players that you are so much better than these teams, right? And the way you do that is by dominating them. And
absolutely.
And Sean said after the game, he was like, I coached, his father, I have a lot of respect for that family. And he was like very kind to him, he didn't say anything bad, but it's frustrating. You're a 1-win team. You're getting beat. It's embarrassing. And, sometimes you let your emotions get the best of you, but it reminded me of the Atlanta thing with, the run by Jamison Williams or whatever,
Yeah.
Jamal Williams, where they were pissed off that they were running up the score. But it's like,
Yeah.
why don't you just stop them? You know?
How about you be better?
Yeah. Like, don't let the game get
Yeah.
to that point.
100%.
And yeah, just a dominating game. And the last 2 weeks have just been bad opponents. But I'm hoping that we can take this momentum and put it to good use. Because I would rather, if I could pick right now, I'll lose to the Chiefs twice if we can beat the Ravens.
Oh, there we go.
That's how
There
bad
we
I
go.
want this one.
Oh, I bet 100%. So the Broncos are on the up and up, man. That's really all I can say. And it's great that Bo Nix is looking better too. And it's not that he's looking better. I mean, there were some games where it was looking rough, but the improvement is clearly showing. It's just there's some times where his receivers let him down, and I think that's going to happen to every quarterback, no matter if it's Tom Brady or if it's a Spencer Rattler or a Bo Nix. Like it's going to happen to a rookie. It's going to happen to a vet. It's just how do you recover from that, and how do you move forward, and how can you score more to continue dominating in the NFL?
Yeah, because those first 2 weeks weren't good, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was like he could have easily, if his confidence was shaky, it would have been crumbled after week 2. You know,
but you knew it wasn't as soon as he was talking back to Sean on the sidelines.
Yeah.
You knew it wasn't.
we haven't even lost since that moment.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So big game coming up, and we'll see what this team's really made of. But Sunday night, Monday Night Football, we've already recapped. So that's all I got. And I think it's time for
Kyle, is it time for the
motherfucking Welcome to the Chives with Kyle. Welcome to
love
the
it.
Chives with Kyle.
You love it.
A little bit longer, but it is the halfway point of the season where you're getting a bigger picture on these teams, and we went a little more thorough. There is a new draft order, okay? After the Week 8 upsets, there's been a major shakeup right now. The 2025 draft order, here it is. If the season ended right now, okay? Last week, the Patriots would have drafted 1. The Browns would have been 2. The Panthers 3, Titans 4, and the Raiders 5. Okay? This week, if the season ended today, Rick, who do you think would draft number 1 overall?
Panthers?
You're right.
Yep. Okay.
The Panthers,
they're the worst team out there right now.
biggest needs: quarterback, cornerback, center, wide receiver, edge. The Panthers tied with the Dolphins for the fewest sacks in the league, only 9. But they need a quarterback too. I mean, they have a lot of work to do. The Titans would be second. So right off the bat, you got 2 teams that are likely drafting whatever 2 quarterbacks, CJ Ward and whoever else, probably Sanders. Then the Patriots at 3, who arguably don't need a quarterback. The way Drake May's playing, I like him.
No, they need a wide receiver.
Yep. They need a wide receiver, a cornerback, an edge, an offensive tackle, and a safety.
Mm-hmm.
If they could get another star corner to go opposite of Christian Gonzalez, and with a defensive coach running the thing, all of a sudden, because you can get some good receivers in the 3rd, 4th round.
Yeah. And Jalen Polk, we still haven't seen Jalen Polk like we've seen a good amount of him, and it's not great, but that doesn't mean the next year he can kind of take that next step. So
yeah, exactly.
A wide receiver for sure.
Cleveland would be 4th. Arguably, they would draft a quarterback.
Yes. But
we'll see how Jameis Winston does, because if he starts putting together some wins, I could see them moving back to like 8 or 9. The Jets are at 5. The Jets are at 5 now.
God.
They did draft Jordan Travis last year in the 5th round. So I don't know if they would draft a quarterback, but we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens. If the Jets win out, none of this matters. But I bring up the draft order because I didn't know if you saw what I posted on X. This is my chives. I posted on X a recap. It was of us grading the draft. And I went in on two of the picks. I said the 49ers just drafted all of my favorite day 2 players. One team. And I went in on Isaac Urignardo and how I saw him as a Devon Achane and how he's going to be a real weapon once he gets his opportunity. Of course, he's coming off a fresh 102-yard game that really was the difference in that game. He won that game for the 49ers.
He did, yeah.
And then Malik Mustafa, the safety, who has had so many plays, an interception against Seattle, a big stop on the goal line, and then against the Chiefs, he lit up Xavier Worthy, actually knocked him out of the game with a concussion. He is a very hard-hitting safety. So if you haven't seen, go to my X and look at the video that I posted. I even tagged Rick in it, and I was like, next week we should be interning for these teams.
Yeah, there you go.
We have had some good draft picks, but it's cool to see some of these guys pan out that I just really felt good about. And Isaac Urignardo, watch out for him. I think he's going to get more opportunities. I don't know. Do you know the starting running back, Jordan for the 49ers? Yeah. Is he out for long term? Do you know?
He played that game. I just don't know how much longer he's going to be out for. Jordan Mason.
Oh no, he was out. He could have returned in week 8.
No, he played against the Cowboys.
Kyle Shanahan said that Jordan Mason maybe could come back into the game despite the shoulder injury, but no need to the way Urignardo is running. So I guess he injured his AC joint. He sprained it a couple weeks ago, and then he left in the second quarter, and then it was the Isaac Urignardo show.
Yep. Yeah, because he could have returned. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is just like, they are so wealthy at running back right now.
It's not fair.
It's not fair, but I mean, he is a 5th-round draft pick. I mean, anybody could have drafted this guy, but that is my chives. Basically just a huge pat on my own back. So love the segment.
do the pat as if it's my arm.
Oh,
there we go. Just move closer. Move closer.
Nope,
the other side. Move closer. There we go. There we go. Thank you guys to everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed that little pat on the back from me. To Kyle, thank you guys so much for joining us on this stream. It was a long one, but a lot of exciting things happened in week 8. A lot of not exciting things happened in week 8 as well. Trades happened. Teams are making moves. The trade deadline is next Tuesday at 3 or 4 p.m. Eastern time. So expect a lot of movement happening this next week or so. And we're going to be here to cover it. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing our predictions for week 9. And I'm going to bring up a little something special. I think I did it last year around this time was I'm going to miss the lights, a reference to Friday Night Lights. And what this segment means is I'm calling out all the teams who I think are going to miss the playoffs and not make it to at least a wild card. So stay tuned for that. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing that, but we're going to do our predictions and our top 5 tomorrow as well. So thank you guys again for being here. To everyone who was here, we had KC, we had Bill, we had Lil E in here, we had Jinja, we had so many people in the chat. We appreciate all you guys coming in and enjoying this recap with us. Go follow us on X and now Rick. Kyle, where can they follow you on X?
You can follow me at NFL with Kyle.
And go follow the Only Football Podcast at Only Football Pod. Kyle, where can they follow you on YouTube?
Kyle.
Top 5, no debating. Top five.
Top five. No, I'm just kidding. You can follow me at Kyle Kitzman right there at the bottom. We will have our top 5 tomorrow and a special Halloween edition too.
Oh, yeah. We're going to do a little something special for top five. You're right. Again, thank you guys so much for being in the chat. What's up, Kyle?
Last thing. The PFF grades for week 8 have come out. Lamar Jackson had the best, 90.5. Guess who had the worst?
Quarterbacks?
Yeah, only quarterbacks.
Mahomes?
Bryce Young.
Oh, okay.
40.8. That was his grade. 40.8.
Wow.
That's Bryce Young. Welcome back to the NFL.
Wow.
Make the most of your opportunity, buddy.
Kyle, are we going to be in costume tomorrow? Yeah, we are. We didn't want to spoil it, but Crafty asked. But thank you. Tomorrow's going to be an awesome Halloween episode. We're going to make it extra spooky with our top 5. But thank you guys again to everyone who joined us. We appreciate it. To all the members and everybody else who's in the chat, make sure to like this video before you get out of here. We would really appreciate it. And Kyle, always a good time, brother.
Always a good time.